Welcome back to another episode of EventHubs Talking Block. I am John Catalyst Gray, and with you as always is John Velociraptor Guerrero.
Hello. Well, we've had Street Fighter 6 for over a week now, and we've been playing Street Fighter 6 for like maybe just slightly less than exactly a week's worth of hours. Probably, I don't know how you guys have been playing as much as I have, but I've been every waking moment that I have an opportunity, I've been exploring, I've been playing with friends online in training mode, everything. And so the next logical step, of course, is to come out with a definitive tier list, because now we know the exact order of the strength of all characters on the roster, right?
Yeah,
that's not what this is. That's not
yeah, I want to talk crap about everyone's character. That's why I'm here. So let's
Smart.
do this.
Smart. Yeah, no, and just to reiterate, it's I've said this on tier list before. This is not because we know this is not because we know for sure. It's because we are exploring the game. This is what we're seeing so far in both what we're playing and what we're hearing. And so we've been doing a lot of research. We've been looking through CFN. We've been listening to other opinions. We are going to offer up our thoughts on the tier list. Now, here are some of the rules. We're not going to just go from number 1 to number 18. If somebody has an opinion, like I think this is the best character in the game, that's fine. We'd love to have that out there. But I've only put up the parameters that we order this within 4 tiers. So like the top, the S tiers, the A tiers, the B tiers, and the C tiers. And so we're all going to give our opinions here. We haven't shared with each other before, so this will be new to us too. We're going to talk about it. We're going to yell at each other. We're going to agree. We're going to disagree. And hopefully you guys are entertained and informed. But I am being joined today, of course, by John Catalyst Gray. And you can't see him, but he's here with us in spirit, Steven DreamKing Chavez. How you doing, Steven?
Oh, hey, I'm here too. How's it going, guys? Yeah, I'm excited to be here and ready to talk about tiers and make some people mad on the internet.
Hey, good. Right place for that. So let's jump right on into it. The first character that we in the EventHubs chats have been talking about easily the most is Manon. Manon. I don't know how it's being pronounced all different ways across the internet. Have fun with that. But Manon, I'm going to go to you first, Steven, because you've had the least amount of time to speak so far. What do you think about Manon? Where do you place her?
I have Manon in S rank. I think she is she's standing out above pretty much everybody right now, I think. It's still a bit early, so I'm not trying to say she's the best in the game definitively or anything like that, but there are a lot of signs that say this character is probably top tier. I mean, I would maybe top 5, potentially best in the game. Still early, but a lot of signs pointing to her being really good. She doesn't seem like she has a lot of weaknesses, which is interesting. I mean, she can suffer the zoning and stuff, but she has ways to go through fireballs. In her character guide in-game in Street Fighter 6, it says that her normals are weak. I don't know who wrote that guide. They clearly have never played the character before, because her normals are not weak. They don't seem weak to me at all. She can play footsies really, and she's really good in the footsie game. She can do really good damage as well. This character kind of has everything, and I haven't got a chance to jump in and actually play her myself in actual matches, but running through her combo trials and stuff, she doesn't seem like she has a lot of things that are difficult to do. So it feels like it's you learn some of her main kind of her streamlined setups and things, and you can you're off to the races, right? And it's interesting. She seems really good right now, and a lot of pro players are playing her, man. I mean, you're seeing her pop up a lot. You're seeing a lot of tech. She seems really good.
John, how does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I'm completely on board with this. She reminds me of Rashid, not in terms of playstyle, but in terms of lack of weaknesses. You ask people what she's not good at, and it's like nothing. She's great at everything. And this is a character I think that is most up for nerfs this next time around that we get balanced stuff. Something like maybe making her strike command grab not add to her metal levels would be really good. But you've got people like Idom, Joey, 801 Strider, Johnny the Karen player from Japan, Oil King, Luffy, and Problem X all playing Manon right now. So I've got her in the S rank, number 1 overall. And then in terms of, I went and charted out all the people that are playing master rank characters in this game. And so every person in there, Manon is number 3 with 99 people in master rank.
So of all the people that are playing, or all the people that have gotten to master, Manon's been mastered 99 times.
99 times and third overall out of the
All right,
characters.
interesting. I think she has weaknesses. I did not put her in S rank. I put her in A rank, so the second tier down. I've played a handful of Manons because she is fairly prominent online and such, and I see her abilities. Of course, she's got very prominent strengths, and I think that I would. When we first heard about her and when we first saw what she could do, review copies of Street Fighter 6 went out and everybody saw the damage that comes off of level 5 command grabs. And that's no joke. That's an absolute strength. It is something to be respected, and it is something that she uses to absolutely climb the tier ladders. She does have decent footsie tools. She can play this footsie game, but I don't think that it excels more than anybody else in particular. I think she's got a fairly average footsie game, and she has to earn her way into those command grabs. And if you're playing footsies with her, there are clear places where you can stop her, where you can shut her down. But before we get into that, I started with this medal system, the command grabs. We saw the damage, and it got a lot of front-end momentum. People were really afraid. We saw those clips. You contrast her with a character like Jamie, who also has a level up system, but his reset every single round. Hers don't. They carry through. So you think about that, and in theory, that makes her pretty scary in theory. She gets pretty inflated, and she hits the ground running. The game comes out, and not to say that these aren't very, very powerful strengths, but I don't think that that's taking her to the very top. I feel comfortable. I'm a JP player, so I've got okay buttons and footsies and neutral. I feel just fine playing the footsie duel with her with just normals and manipulations there. I think I can keep her out just fine. She's going to get in sometimes, of course, and it's a pain, but I don't think that takes her to the very top. And so you guys are saying that she's got really strong neutral tools. Can you elaborate, maybe, Steve, and talk about what you're seeing there that feels like, is there something that she has that doesn't have a clear answer, or is there something that she can just do and there's nothing that you can do about it?
She has standing heavy kick, which has really, really good range, and it's a punish counter, and I think it sends you into a tumble state if you get hit by it as a punish counter. She can follow up with that. It throws you to the corner, or it gives her corner carry. You can drive impact that, but it's a pretty fast normal in neutral, and it's like you need to be sitting there really waiting for it in order to kind of get that. It's not something you're really reacting to too much. She also has standing medium kick, which has deceptively good range and goes straight into her drive rush stuff, which she can get the combo stuff started right away. She also has some target combos that are really, at least I've found they're difficult to deal with when she's pressuring you. She has a string that I think she goes low first. She might just go mid, but it looks like a low hit, and then she does an overhead, which it's like a slower overhead, so you want to react there and go, oh, I can drive impact.
She jab her out of it, right?
Maybe, yeah, but she can counter drive impact during that string, and it's like, okay, like why is that okay kind of thing. It's like, I get she needs to mount offense and stuff, but she just has some things that feel like they're, at least in my opinion, they feel like they're above the pack kind of thing. So,
Sean, what do you think about her neutral?
Yeah, Steven, actually, real quick, does she remind you at all of Laura from Street Fighter 5?
She does kind of remind me of Laura because she does have the grappler stuff, and she doesn't have like a super high execution barrier or anything like that. She feels like she's designed to be like okay, you can kind of, like I said earlier, hit the ground running and just kind of go and do what you want to do. We were talking a little bit about the medal system earlier as well, and Adaptive Trigger, Justin on our team and I were talking a few days ago, and we're basically mentioning like one potential way they might want to nerf her is make her lose medal when she gets knocked down, like G in Street Fighter 5, which would be okay, like you have to earn it now, and even if it does carry over between rounds, there's a bit more onus on the Manon player to actually keep their medal instead of just, I get to get it in every combo, and then by round 3, sometimes even round 2, she's at level 5, and one command throw does like almost half your health, and it's like, that seems a little bit too, it seems like too much right now. It seems like too much, and she gets too much for not enough investment, it feels like.
Yeah, my biggest thing with the character is when she's playing neutral, she can go high and low from very far out, from ranges that most rushdown characters can't do. I don't know exactly how far her sweep reaches, like it's a special move and stuff where she tries to kick you a couple times, but I think it's like 3/4 of the screen it feels like she can travel, and to be able to go low with a move like that as a grappler, like she's not trying to play neutral, like don't get me wrong here, like she wants to get in and blow you up with her stuff, and so she's basically just trying to open you up any way she can, and then she has like a half screen overhead head. And it's like, what the heck? Like, why did you give her these two tools? Like, when you're a grappler and you're that good up close, which she may be the best character up close in the entire game with her normals that are like neg1 and a bunch of other stuff that's very difficult to approach her on. And then her anti-air game is insane. And that's something I really hate with Capcom, when they design characters that are really good at rushing down and other stuff, and there's no penalty for overcommitting. And generally, when you're committing to moves, and Steven knows this really well, like playing Lily, who we'll get into here in a second, when you commit to moves, you should have a decent amount of recovery, and you should be opened up to the point where someone could at least make you block a jump and attack. But with Manon, her anti-air is so good and puts you in such a great position for her to blow you up afterwards. It's like, man, what are her weaknesses? Well, I think her weakness actually might be JP, the character that John plays, which I think that may be part of the reason, because I don't think that she does very well from full screen. Her mobility and a bunch of other options really are about mid-screen and closer up, and that I think is where she does really well. But from full screen, I would imagine she struggles tremendously.
Well, I think about I have a couple of Manon players, one of them here in Arizona, regular playing. And so I've had some experience against her as he's been exploring her too. I know standing heavy kick goes really far, but it's also got 15 frames of startup, and it is -2 on hit if you don't get the crush counter scenario or whatever that is in Street Fighter 6. And it's -6 on block. So I see counters. Like immediately I theory fight. It's like, okay, so that's gonna suck if I get hit, but if she's in that range, I can either make her whiff it, I can hit her on startup, or if I just plain block it, it's completely my turn now. And also, like you said, it's not DI cancelable, so it will also be susceptible to DI, as will her. It's not her sweep, but it might as well be, because I think she uses this as a sweep more than her sweep, is that like kind of twirl on the ground. I think it's a quarter circle command. Either way, she can use that to pounce forward, but that's a huge risk for her. So when you slow things down against Manon, I feel like you can stuff her advances just fine. Should you be jumping at her very often? Well, she's a grappling character. I don't know how much you want to jump in against a grappler. You need to have that at all times as a juggling pin that she needs to worry about. But I would say, okay, well, she's got anti-airs, she's got anti-airs. To me, I feel like, and of course, full screen JP, clear advantage against her for sure. But I'm fighting her most of the time at a place where JP doesn't really excel, and that's in just the close to mid range, where he can't just freely get projectiles out on the screen. He's got to use his neutral tools, which are fine but not amazing, and I still feel comfortable against this character doing that. When she gets in, that's her favorite place to be for sure. But all things considered, the way she can pounce, it all has holes in it, it all has counters to it, and I think that yes, just drive rushing in and suddenly command grabbing, that's going to catch people for a while until it doesn't. I think some of that's going to wane after some time, and I think that things will settle. Still a very good character, but I don't think an S tier character right now. Any last thoughts on Manon? Anyone want to disagree with something I said, or we all said our piece?
Nerf this character, please.
Yeah,
let's go.
I was gonna say I disagree a little bit, but we're gonna get into this here. I think probably next with the JP. It has nothing special in the normals there. Like, he does okay. We'll talk about that in the next section.
Let's talk about it now. We're here in the next section. It's JP, second character. Steven, where did you put JP on your tier list?
JP is an S-rank character, man.
This S-rank character.
He's really good. Before the game dropped, just looking at kind of everything everyone can do, I predicted that Manon and JP would be potentially top tier. I was like, look, I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling based on what they can do. It kind of seems like we're here now. Again, it's like it's not.
Is this just
yet.
Wish fulfillment now?
No, I could see early on. I could see what that character was capable of, and I just was thinking like just based on what I knew about the game. I'm like, it seems like JP is going to be really good. And then the game came out, and you started seeing a bunch of pros go to him and do all this stuff, and he's really good. I haven't played him myself, so I can only speak from what I've seen, what I've talked to you about, John, and you know what I've played against. But it's like, he's really good, man. He seems really good. His zoning is really strong. He obviously he can pin you down in full screen and make things really difficult for you. He can put the portals out and teleport if he wants to get in and do a crazy, like a cross up or wherever he goes. He's got corner control. Like, he has some crazy mix-ups and things in the corner that are pretty gnarly. Like, he's one of those characters that you go, okay, like, his weaknesses be up close to him, but then he's got OD counter, which stops strikes, stops supers, stops DI, stops command grabs, stops regular throws, only loses to projectiles. And if you're a character like Lily, like the character that I play, I don't have projectiles. So I get countered on everything, which is just dandy.
Neutral jump. But yeah, John, your thoughts on JP?
Yeah, sure.
So he is the number one character in terms of the most master ranked people out there. 154 people. So hands down number one. He's played by Sonic Fox, Nemo, the Four Phils, a former Falk player, and then Brian F. So this is a highly technical character, but for him to be played this much at the highest levels, I think it's very telling that he's extremely strong in this game. If you were going to tell me Manon's not number one, I would think it was JP, so I have him in S rank and number 2 overall. This guy he feels like he's got pretty much every tool you'd want to have from full screen. And where he does struggle a little bit is again, John was talking about this drive rushing in on him, basically from neutral, basically just kind of going wild on him. You can blow him up and stuff, but the thing about it is, playing some zoners and whatnot in prior games like Rose and stuff, like giving those characters a DP or a hardcore counter or whatever is such a great tool to have. But JP's got more than that. He's got a full-on OD counter that blows up a bunch of stuff and is not super easy to punish him on. You can bait it out for sure, but it's not something that you can just sit back and block and punish. It is something that you have to kind of bait out and blow him up for in a proper way. Not like you can't bait it out like a traditional DP as easily because those 2 orbs shoot on your head, basically, right?
You would bait it out just like you would bait out a DP. In fact, you could do the neutral jump, and then that would lose to a DP a lot of times, where it wouldn't lose to this counter.
The thing about it is, though, you give up some space there. You give up your pressure to try to hope that a counter comes, and then if you neutral jump, if he doesn't do the counter, he can convert that into a crouching heavy punch. Probably can send you across the screen, and then there goes your whole turn. There goes everything. So it's you can bait it out, but it's like you're giving up some very important pressure and distance for it.
The crouching heavy resets to mid screen, not to full screen.
I mean,
and when you gain ground on JP, you need to take damage off of him. Like it is not the kind of thing where you can sit there and afford to just be super patient against him, because he'll push you right back out. And when you are full screen against this character, I don't think there's a single fighter in the game who can handle him. He is hands down the best character from full screen, and it's like, what are your options there? And some characters like Guile, who I play, he can throw an OD fireball right into JP's face and blow through his stuff. I'm not saying there are no options. I'm just saying that JP has a very heavy advantage when he has pushed you to full screen. So when you do finally get up on him and you don't do the right thing, it's just so disheartening against this character. He feels incredibly strong.
I have JP in A tier, so take that, guys. He is very strong right now, and I think of him as a reverse Dhalsim, in the sense that Dhalsim usually takes a ton of time for those that are going to play him to get him to a level where he's formidable against everybody else, and then he has all these crazy situations that nobody knows how to deal with, like 6 months to a year to 2 years to 3 years into the game, and Dhalsim kind of catches up and becomes a tour de force then. JP is still technical, is still different, has a lot of different options with all of his different fireballs and heights and the command grab and the spike and the snaps and all that kind of stuff, but it's intuitive enough that people are able to use it effectively on the outset, and everybody else is having to learn how to deal with that stuff to begin with. So I think, one, he's going to start with a little more advantage than he's going to have as people figure things out. I know we were talking about it yesterday, where once he's got you full screen, he can just do whatever he wants with fireballs and spikes and all that stuff. It's like, no, once he throws that first spike, you can actually close the gap into mid screen, and that changes his zoning game significantly. So when I get a full screen, if I'm getting more than just a spike, that's usually because people just don't know. But as soon as I throw that one out there and they block or parry it, they can move forward into a place where I'm much less comfortable throwing stuff. But until you know that, and until you understand that, I'm getting a whole bunch of mileage out of that zoning. So understandable. But when it comes down to it, as the JP player, I feel like none of the matches are really free, and he can win pretty much any match, like in any setup, but it really comes down to the interactions. It's like, did you jump at the right time? Did you read me? And did I read you correctly? This is both in the zoning, mid-range zoning, as well as in the footsie battle. His footsies are fine. They're pretty decent, and they can convert if he drive rushes into that full screen zone game where he wants to be. He's got some tricky stuff with like his Super 2 where he can where it causes all of the different projectiles to appear on screen, and 2 of them are overheads, one's a low, one's a mid, and you got to deal with him teleporting around you. Like, yeah, he's got some zany stuff, but as people figure out, like, well, you just jump forward out of that unless he's done it on hit to you, and then he's lost his level 2 super. Like, once people figure that kind of stuff out, I see the character waning a little bit. I don't think, and I was worried about this, I thought people might figure him out to the point where, now that I know that you're not going to get away with a bunch of stuff and you're going to DI through all of his strings and this and that, plus he's got not the greatest defense, save for that counter for sure, that he would fall below viability tier. I don't think he's going to fall below viability tier. I think that JP will be a solid mid tier when it comes down to it at the end of things. A little more advantage against characters like Zangief, maybe Manon. But at the end of the day, I think it's very much an understanding battle, and 2, it's going to be a player versus player battle more than anything else when it comes to JP. But I do think he's got absolute advantage right now because people can fairly easily, intuitively figure out his strategies, and it's harder to figure out how to deal with those strategies. But I think that he's going to kind of come down a little bit, but still stay above mid-tier, viability tier.
Yeah, he's being played so much in tournament right now by so many people and winning that I don't see this character falling off at all. I actually see this character getting stronger. Steven, you were saying?
Yeah, I was just gonna say to reply to the stance on the full screen pressure stuff, and after the first spike, if you know to jump forward, then you get into a much better position. I've been trying to study that situation a lot and figure out where the gaps are, and I tried like practicing perfect parries on the spike, which is also really difficult to do because you can perfect parry from full screen and then drive rush in. It's really difficult the timing to get that, but I'll just say I've been trying to study that and specifically look for ways to get out of that pressure. You can do it, but it's on the receiving end, I will tell you, it's really damn tough. Like, it sounds like, oh, just jump out of it. And it's like, sure, theoretically, but the JP player, if you have a competent one, they know that you're looking to do that. They know you're trying to move forward, and they're going to stop your advances. And once he gets on that roll of just doing projectile after projectile and spike and all of that, you can be locked down for a good while, and it's hard to get out of it. It really is. So
yeah, I mean, if you jump at the wrong time, like all he has to do is lay down his medium spike, it will catch you right out of the air. I had a GP player doing that to me last night, and it was he knew I was going to jump, and he's like, nope, you're not. You're back there full screen. Hold this. I will say the one thing that I think is a potentially very large factor here that we haven't really wrapped our head around here in the community, and that is parries, specifically perfect parries. I know Steven was talking about how difficult that is to perfect parry his ground spike and whatnot, but that did happen with Third Strike, where people were not using parries a lot, and then as the game went on with more time, we really learned how to adapt to parries and how to just incorporate them in a normal part of our gameplay, where it was like you're basically doing option selects on the controller like all the time to basically do a parry or just walk forward or do whatever and stuff. And I don't think we've quite got to that level here with Street Fighter 6, but I think that is coming for sure. And that is the one factor I can see with JP that might knock him down a little bit, where if you can parry kind of through a lot of his stuff, I could see him being a worse character. But right now, he's really good.
The other big thing about him is that you can drive rush through a lot of his fireballs or spikes and such. The only thing that kind of shuts that down is if he's throwing out the command grab, which is a very big risk in and of itself. He throws a full screen command grab, you can just hold forward and you'll jump the command grab, and then your second jump will be a jump in punish for him because he's still in recovery. But that's more of like once you've been trained to start parrying and blocking and holding your ground there, then that command grab comes out and it catches you looking, kind of a thing. But you can drive rush through a lot of his stuff because it's not as active as a traditional fireball. And once people start figuring that out, there's still an answer for him, because then he has to stop his zoning, be ready for that drive rush or that advance forward, and try to stop it or stuff it with standing medium kick or a standing fierce punch, stuff like that. The game does evolve, but the point is, once you've peppered in, and I don't know how much drive rushing through fireballs and his zoning you guys have been doing yet, but once you start doing that, it stops him from doing as much of that, because now he's got to be worried about sticking stuff out. Otherwise, you're up in his face and it's his ass. So there's a lot of evolution that I think still has yet to be explored when people are playing against JP. I'm interested to see how it all plays out. And I could see a future where, man, his zoning is just so solid that I do think it's going to always just come down to the ability of the individual players that are contesting each other, and that's where you want this game to be. It's where you want a fighting game to be in the first place. But
I want to say on that note, actually, yeah, because we talked about this when Manon came out in Street Fighter V, and Steven DreamKing here was really adamant that, like, look, you're going to get better at fighting the character because, you know, more lab time, but she's so technical and she has so many options, she's going to get better too. And that's one thing I don't think we're properly accounting for here with JP is JP players are going to get a lot better because his options are incredibly good. So it's not just a one-sided thing where, you know, the community is going to level up and get better at him. Yes, that's going to happen, but JP players are going to level up a lot too because of his popularity and how dominant he is, and he may just stay exactly where he's at right now as one of the best characters in the game, in my opinion.
Could be.
Yeah, I agree. And just really quickly, a note on the forward moving stuff and drive rushing in. That typically seems to be the answer against JP. You want forward moving attacks and you want drive rush and stuff. The one thing I will say to that is the startup of your moves can get caught by a lot of his stuff too. So it's as Lily with Condor Spire and stuff like that, I basically need to have Windclad and overdrive version to try to get through a lot of that stuff. But even then, sometimes I get tagged by stuff, and it's like, if the JP knows what they're doing and they make their pressure from full screen really tight, those gaps are hard to find, man. And I will just say it from that side. It's in theory, yes, move forward, drive rush in, do all that stuff. As someone who's been really trying to practice that and find those gaps, putting it into play is a lot harder than it sounds.
I think the way I would put it too, and this will probably be the last I have to say about him, but it's that most situations outside of after he's just thrown you full screen and he gets some free pressure, which you're probably going to block or parry. And I, by the way, when that happens, I'm thinking I'm gaining a little bit of meter and I'm taking a little bit of your meter away. Anything beyond that is bonus in terms of like if I actually hit you with the spike or stuff like that. But I expect to be able to get a blocked spike. And you spend a little meter blocking it. And then if they're burned out, I just go ham on trying to get some chip damage going. But I think that outside of that situation, it's almost always there's a rock to a paper to a scissor in terms of what you can do and what he can do. And that's why I keep coming back to it's going to be player versus player. It's just that not everybody knows the rock and the paper and the scissors, and it's easier for him to implement them right now and kind of get away with a bunch of crap that he won't be getting away with, as you know, just throwing fireball after fireball after fireball. I don't see people doing as much in the way of like, you know, DIing that or even jumping forward. And one other thing is his anti-airs, his cross-up anti-air, like he is like non-existent. He's got to counter you or parry you if you're going to cross him up. If you're right on him, the crouching fierce punch is pretty decent, but he doesn't get a lot off of it, and it's kind of a reset situation where you're both back at that same spot, and he's got, you know, 100, 200 damage or whatever it is off of that. So it's not the best. If you jump in from far away and he gets forward roundhouse, that is the business anti-air, which it's kind of hard to do because it depends on the height and all this stuff, but he can combo that into some big full screen away into level 3, whatever. That's a lot harder to do, and if you're right on top of him, it's going to whiff like every time and you just cross him up. But yeah, he does have some decent anti-airs, but at the end of the day, outside of being full screen and once you know how to go from full screen to mid screen, he's playing a rock paper scissors game with his strategy, and it can all be beaten
until he has level 3. Then level 3, he's pretty much an unstoppable force. Isn't it full screen invincibility? Like on his level 3?
I think it hits everywhere, doesn't it?
It hits everywhere, full screen invincibility. And it's like, what the hell? Like, seriously.
It'll lose to EX booms or EX projectiles, though, because they were. It does teleport for sure. Yeah. And it goes through fireballs. No, it goes through, but the fireballs will recover in time unless you do it like immediately as they do it. But if like I do a reaction timing to what I would normally do to a regular fireball, I'm like, I got him. Nope, if they did EX, they block it, and then I'm out 3 super bars and getting punish countered. It is a very good, but it's certainly, it's balanced in a way that like I can tell that they've thought about this and that's pretty much everything through Street Fighter 6 thus far I've seen is everything has a counter to it.
I love that you said a full screen
Django.
Super that just destroys people is balanced and fair. So hopefully they give that to Rose when she is added to the game, and then we'll have a balanced and fair character too.
Just wait till I talk about Lily's supers, and you're gonna be like, oh wow, JP seems way better.
And that's maybe a good transition to go here. I have Lily next to discuss, and I'm gonna lead it with this. Is Lily the worst character in the game? Steven, you player, what do you think?
You know, I didn't want to believe that, but every tier list that I've seen so far has said as much. The more that I play here, the more I'm starting to see some of the low tieredness like creep through. She probably is. Honestly, she's probably the worst character in the game. She definitely has some juice. She has some good stuff. She's got some solid normals. Command grabs do great damage. She's got some things, but I think her biggest issue is that her two main tools, which would be her Condor Spire and her Windclad Strike, both lose heavily to drive impact. If the opponent has any kind of basic understanding of how to shut those things down, stuff becomes a lot more difficult for her really quickly. You have to play very patiently and kind of, find your way in, pick your spots, which is, that's the standard for grapplers and the standard definitely for a T-Hawk style moveset. But I'm starting to find there's certain things about her that she has good stuff, but they don't work the way that they should. And that's when you start seeing, like, that to me is when you have signs of a low tier character. So, for example, right out of the gate, her overdrive DP does not have strike invincibility.
I don't understand that. I have no idea why they did that.
Yep, nothing. It only beats throws. So it's like, oh, you have to hope that they're throwing you on wake up and try to go for an EXDP or an OD.
For 2 bars? For 2 bars, and it doesn't have invincibility.
That's right. So thankfully, her OD Spire goes through projectiles when it's wind buffed, but no other time. So you have to make sure you get the buff first. Then it goes through and it's really good for anti-projectile, so that's good. Her level 1 super has slow startup, so it can be baited out by meaty, crouching light, or sometimes the move that you're trying to counter just recovers too quickly, and it just gets blocked. And it's like, this is her level 1, it has invincibility, it's supposed to be her reversal, but it has really slow startup, and it's like, okay, so I can't reliably use that every time. I can't do an OD DP to get people off of me. What's my next option? Is I have to commit to level 2 super or level 3, which is like, man, that's a high requirement just to have a basic defensive option on wake up, right? I mean, and again, it's like, in a vacuum, maybe that makes sense for Lily, but you look at other characters and you go, man, like, they're not working that hard to get these basic things. Like even Zangief has like an EX lariat that works as a legit reversal, right? And it's like, well, okay, like, well, why not Lily, right? Her level 3 does not combo against grounded to airborne opponents. Sorry, only hits grounded opponents. If you're too far away, it won't connect. And you can also jump out of it after the screen freeze, so it's not like an actual traditional command grab super. So, any setups like that with like an empty Condor dive or like, just a safe Condor Spire, none of that's going to work for mix up for level 3, which is unfortunate because she's a grappler player. That's what you want to do, and it just doesn't work that way. There's just things like that, and I've had in recent times playing ranked, had a couple times where the horizontal range on her level 2, while it wasn't windclad, was just pathetic. I've got a clip on my Twitter right now where I read a jump in. It was a Ken doing a jump in. I was going to get the win, went for level 2 because that's her anti-air super, but like he makes contact with the wind just barely and it just doesn't get him. He like drops right in front of it. I completely whiff it. And it's like, okay, it wasn't windclad, sure, but it's like, come on, man. Like, what am I supposed to do for reversals and stuff? I mean, her DP is good at least, but like as an anti-air, but it's just, she has these things. It's like on paper, she's got these really good tools. Some of them just don't work like they should. And I think overall, once people understand kind of how to shut down some of her main stuff, you have to throw out some Hail Marys and go a little bit ham to like catch people off guard to get the win. So again, that's not unlike T-Hawk. That's very much in the same vein, but it is unfortunate to see.
Well, and so am I right to say that you have her in C tier?
I have her in C tier. Yep.
All right, John, what were you saying?
Oh, Steven, you were talking about how you do a proper reversal with Lily. And what you do is you navigate to the menus and you select a different character because that's all you can pretty much do. I've got her in C tier, 18th overall, dead last. In the master rank, she is dead last as well. 31 people playing her. And here, hey, this is going to be a really big list, guys, so bear with me here. Here's all the pro players that are playing Lily. El Chicote. That's it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just one person. So, and we were talking about level 3s here a second ago, comparing and contrasting here with JP, who has level 3 everything. Lily's level 3 is her command grab, like you would expect from a grappler, but you can jump right out of it. And it's like, what? It's like, why did you do that, Capcom? Like, were you purposely trying to make this character bad? Her anti-air move, Crouching Heavy Punch, is one of the worst anti-air normals in the game. Her DP is a really good anti-air, but it's terrible. Like, she's got good reach, she's got a number of things going for her, but she feels like a character that Capcom did not finish. I told DreamKing about this from the get-go. I'm like, this character has low tier written all over her, and here we are. So,
so a lot of the characters have some really obviously broken stuff, but a lot of the times they have to access that. So we're talking about JP. He puts you full screen. That's where he really loves to be, but he's got to earn that to an extent. Like, he's got to win that in the neutral and then get you there. And some characters like Manon, she's got to level up and she's got to nail a couple of command grabs. But when she does that, she's in a really great position. To me, it seems that not only does Lily start the round without wind-clad stocks, that's correct, right? She has to earn them, right? She has to build them up. When she gets them, that makes her just like, it's definitely a strength. But as Javis showed on Twitter, when she, like, I would imagine that if you block a Condor Spire that's windclad, you're in a real sticky situation, because now she's got her command grab versus strike mix up, and that would be a pretty strong situation to be in. Well, first of all, you can DI it, and then that just blows her up pretty hard. Second of all, if you do find yourself in that blocking situation, mashing a 4-frame normal will still get you out of the command grab, as I understand it, and she can beat you with her standing light kick, but then the payoffs for landing that standing light kick for her are not that great. So if I'm defending, it's like, I'm gonna win, or I'm gonna take some minimal damage and then be out of it. And by the way, now she's got to go through all of the efforts of finding another opportunity to stock up another wind-clad stock to do that situation again. And point is, it's like she works really hard just to become like a kind of medium character, like a decently strong character, where everybody else, if they get their stuff going, they're ridiculous. But it's balanced by that they have the onus of having to do that. She has all of the stuff that we just talked about, no invincible DP, like some bad anti-airs apparently, and like I'm just not afraid of her. I'm not afraid to go in on her. I'm not afraid to really play with her in the neutral. She just doesn't seem like she has a whole lot of juice as right now. And I even think about, like, well, what could they do? Could they start her with full wind-clad stocks? Like, that would be something, but even that I don't think would be all that awesome, because I don't think that her strongest stuff is all that strong. But what do you think about that, Steven? If she started with wind-clad stocks, what would that do for her?
I think that would be good. I think that and putting
it's
strike invincibility, and putting strike invincibility on OD uppercut would be good changes. The one thing that I have issue with, though, is like, when you get her basic combo stuff, it's basically like you were saying in that situation, if they block, wind-clad spire, you can get like standing light kick, standing light punch, and then an uppercut. Usually then it's the choice between, do I get a stock here or do I go in, kind of thing. If you choose to get a stock and you try to use that wind-clad to get in with a spire, you can get DI'd. So it's like, you have to kind of choose, do I just forego the stock and try to keep my pressure, keep my distance in, or do I go for the stock and then try to have to work my way in again safely? And sometimes even wind-clad spire can be a little bit of a detriment to you, because you can make you can bait out DIs with like light spire if they're not wind-clad, if you have the proper spacing. But if they're wind-clad, they go far enough to where you're still going to get DI'd, and you can't do that safe bait. The other weird thing about Lily is, like I said, it's like this inconsistency of, like, her wind-clad spires hit 3 times, but if you do them from like a bit further, just a bit away from the opponent, only the 2 hits will connect. So they can still DI you. And it's like, oh, you would think I'm close enough to break through it with the 3 hits, but I'm not. Like, I have to be right up on them, and then it breaks. Like, there's been so many times, even with OD Spire, like Windclad, that I'm like, oh, I'm going to break through this DI, I got this. And nope, just it's 2 hits, I get cracked, and there you go. And it's like, that's her main way in, but it can be stopped very pretty easily with DI. It feels like you have to be really tricky with your spacing and your approach and really try to catch them off guard to get that stuff. So
does she ever feel awesome? Like, is there ever a time where you're like, yes, now she's in her groove, in her zone, this is where she just blows people up and they're at a disadvantage, and it's understandably so? Like, does she ever have those moments?
She does. It's usually when you can kind of get stuff rolling. It's usually when you can build that apprehension in the opponent. When
you command grab them with her like full screen command grab.
Yeah, her command grab range on light and OD is quite good. It's really damn good. But like usually that's kind of when you can kind of get stuff rolling. It's like with that kind of stuff, or when you bait them out with something because they think something's coming. One of the things I like to do a lot is because you can DI between a basic string of like crouching heavy punch into the windclad strike, medium and heavy. You can like the opponent can DI for free every time, but you can do the light if you do it from a crouching heavy punch, and you'll have just enough time on like the last frame to do a reverse DI. And that psychs people out because they're trying to, get the drive impact on your medium or your heavy in pressure, and then you answer back, right? But even that's tricky to do because it's like the last possible frame. You have to be mashing it, and you have to hope that online isn't storing your inputs and you accidentally get a super instead. And it's this whole thing, right? But
and I think about that, and then I go like, okay, but then you've got someone like Honda with headbutts or Blanka with Blanka balls, yes. And that's a lot of the similar kind of strategy. But like, what does it take for them to do those things? What are the benefits from them doing those things versus what does Lily need to do to set up these situations? And it's like, dude, what's going on here?
It feels weirdly like it just feels imbalanced. It does, and like I hate to say that because I love Lily, I love what her tool set offers, I love playing her, but it's like I don't want to just be that guy who's like, oh yeah, my character sucks, right? It's like, give me buffs, but it's like, my character kind of sucks. Give me buffs.
No, they just need to finish the character, actually. That would be the kind of the first start. And again, I think with the input issues people are experiencing in the game, I think it's multifaceted, but Lily has the worst of all the cast members as far as I've seen. I have seen far more Lily people complain about the character, and that's pretty crazy because no one plays this character. There's like 5 people who play her. I've ran across 2 Lily players in all of my time playing Street Fighter 6 so far. And it's like, man, like Capcom, what the heck? Like, do you have a problem with Mexican people or something like that? Is this a racial thing or something? Because it's like all the characters from Mexico usually suck, and like they don't finish them, they don't do them really well, and it's like, man, it's like, can you guys spend a little bit more time here? Because it would be nice to actually have a viable good character from that region, but you know.
The input error stuff is wild with Lily. I had a moment, like it happens a lot throughout my sets or just when I'm playing in general, but the main issue is usually like go for Windclad, get an SPD, and then the inverse of that. And that is like one of the worst things that could happen because you go for an SPD punish and she does Windclad and you're right in front of the opponent and you're completely vulnerable. And I had a moment where I was playing against, ran into Filipino champs Dhalsim, actually managed to stun him, was going for the win, went to do wind buff, got a light SPD instead. So I got no big punish combo, I just got a light SPD, it didn't finish him, he ended up beating me. And I was just like, okay, well, Capcom, I guess they don't want me to win with this character. I don't know what to do.
Steven, they say that the character's got easy execution in their little profile things.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that she's labeled as easy, which is like my God, man. Like, did anybody play this character? Did they run into any of the basic struggles you find after 5 minutes with this character? Like, my God, man.
What it is they say easy execution. They say easy to mess up execution. They just didn't include the rest of the sentence in there. So.
That's right.
All right. Speaking of another easy character, next up on the list we got John's current main, Guile. Is Guile an easy character, John?
Shockingly, he's actually not. And that's because of the charge time in this game. And charge time, don't quote me on this one, but I believe it's about 1.5 seconds in Street Fighter 4, and that led Guile to be able to do a lot of things, like combo-wise and charging-wise that he otherwise could not do. In this game, it feels like a full 2 seconds to charge up, which is like a good old school Street Fighter 2. And because of that, his footsies and his high damage punishes, they all basically require charging or having a very specific route to go with. But now I want to be careful here here and say I've still got Guile in A tier, and I've got him 6th overall. Like I still think he's really good. He's being played by NuckleDew, and I'm still the daddy. He is, if you burn out against Guile and he has a level 2 super, you might just kiss your butt goodbye right then and there. I have killed so many people by them going, I'm just gonna go ahead and commit. I got in on Guile finally. Let me go ahead and burn all my resources. It's like, oh, I won. Thank you. So this guy's really damaging when he has a charge. He has got some very high powered stuff. When he hits you and he lands his full combos, you feel it. But he also is, when he's walking forward, he does not have very many high damage options. He's got a couple of them. And so when you can get him playing footsies and you can get him approaching you and you can get him doing the natural stuff that you do in Street Fighter, remember that he's got a 2-second charge time. He has to get his big combos off. Now, again, there's plenty of ways to hide that and to buffer it. You've got to be a charge master, but I've been playing this character since Street Fighter 2, not as my main, but I've been playing him for a long time. Steven here likes to call my Guile the scum of the earth. It's pretty apt. The charging on this stuff has thrown me for a loop, and I've spent multiple hours in training mode just learning his combos and other things. So I really thought he would kind of be a brain dead easy character to play. That's actually one of the big reasons I picked him up. I have actually found quite the opposite. He's a pretty technical character, and when you get in there and it's one thing to land this stuff in training mode, but when you try to get in there and land his combos consistently in a match, it is a much more difficult scenario than that. But he's still a pretty damn good character.
Steven, where do you have Guile?
I actually have Guile in A rank as well. I think that he's super solid. I think he's definitely a strong character. I just think there's other characters that have crazier stuff and do things better. But that doesn't make him bad at all. I just think he's very Guile in this game, right? Which is, he does what he does really well, and he doesn't have a ton of options, but the ones that he has are really good, right? Whereas you have other characters who have really good options and a ton of them, right? So that's kind of how I see him. And I will say to the point of the charging stuff, running through his trials and completing like what I think he has his advanced trial 2, I believe it was, is probably the hardest trial in Street Fighter 6, like the hardest combo trial. But trying to figure that stuff out, I think the perfect sonic boom timing, or the way that you execute it, it's not hard, but it's alters the way that you normally do charge moves enough to where it completely messes with you. Where it's like, yes, like I have to hit the button right as the stick is going to the forward input. Like those things need to be at the exact same time, which you've been trained for years to do, like charge partitioning, right? Or to like throw the boom and then immediately hold down back again until you've got another charge, right? Whereas this is like you have to hit those two things at the same time, which again, it's not necessarily difficult, but it's like trying to relearn that and reprogram your brain is really hard. So I will say that about Guile too, because the perfect boom stuff, initially we saw it and everybody was like, oh, he's got just frame sonic booms, that's going to be really hard to do. And then we saw a lot of pro players finally get their hands on him and they were doing it with no problem. It seems like now maybe they've tweaked it a little bit for launch. I don't know for sure, but it seems like it's harder to do now. And it again, I'm not sure if that's the case, but trying it myself, I'm like, oh, that's weird. That's very weird to get used to. And like, I don't envy Guile players for that. But it's, again, I think he's a really good character, but I do think he has some stuff like that that's definitely trickier than what we're used to seeing from Guile.
John, how many Master Guiles do we have? Do you have the
Master
number
Guiles are
offhand?
48, and then he is on the list overall. He's at 13th. He's actually not as popular as you would assume, based on how people had been ranking him. He's actually fairly low on the popularity list.
Yeah, I've run into like 2 Guiles, and I think I have a 100% win rate against Guile right now, but I haven't played against very many of them. So I didn't have a ton of like updated from the beta information on him, but I did watch the Japanese tier list creation. Jayuna awesomely translated that into English and talked about what the likes of Tokido and Mago and company had to say. And they said that Guile is redonkulous, that he is one of the top 2 best characters in the game, hands down, and that he's going to only get better. That his neutral is surprisingly good for what it is, but that his zoning is just ridiculous. And I have felt the potential in his zoning, especially with EX booms. He can just control the screen in a way that I think like not quite anybody else can. Like maybe a powered up Ryu throws an EX, powered up Denjin, whatever. But
it's not
Guile
the same.
can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'll give you a quick example of that. His ability to throw an OD fireball and have it traverse the screen is so fast. And then if he does a Sonic Blade and he does an EX version of that one, the heavy one, it travels so quick to the point where people don't even have time to hold back on the controller. It is very quick.
Right. So, and you put that into the hands of someone like NuckleDo, someone like Daigo, and I go, oh, that's pretty scary. So I don't have a ton of personal experience against Guile, but I do have him in S tier because of just how much faith Japan has in him, and because he's, like you said, John, people have been playing this character for 30 years now, 35 years now. They kind of know what the ins and outs of him, and like they know what to expect, what to be afraid of. He's a little underrepresented, but I would not be surprised to have him come out and be just an absolute top tier beast. So I have him as a kind of a tepid S tier. That's
I just want to jump in really quickly about the having faith in what Japan thinks of Guile. Daigo's playing Ken, and he's not even playing Guile. And I think Tokido's playing Manon from last I saw.
Tokido's playing Luke.
Is he playing Luke? Oh, well, that's another character we're going to talk about. So, yeah, Guile's good, but I just think that there's characters that do stuff better. It's like, yeah, Japan says he's number 2 and insanely good, but it's like they also are not playing him. So it's like, some of the big players are not playing him. It's like, well, when a character is really that good, Japan plays him.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well,
we'll see.
Japan also thought that Balrog and Laura in season 2 were just garbage characters. So it's like, yeah, and I think they don't even like Manon very much. So differences in play styles and all that. But just have them come out here and play add-on for a little while, and we'll see what they think of Manon. So.
All right, so next up on the list is Ken. Ken has been a fairly strong character. People have been regarding him as pretty heights here. John, what do you think about Ken?
Ken, I've got as S rank and then 3rd overall behind JP and Manon. This is the most popular Shoto character and the most played by the pros, and that is a very big deal in Street Fighter games. When you are the most popular Shoto in the game, that usually means you're the best.
Do you consider Luke a Shoto?
Luke is a Shoto for sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've got Ken above him. As we've discussed before, Daigo's playing him, but also Phenom, Fujimura, Angry Bird, Chris Tatarian, Takamura, NL, Machabo, and then Ceroblast. And I'm really wondering what's going to happen here when Akuma comes out as DLC. Maybe he's going to supplant Ken, but he is the 2nd overall character with 143 people playing him in Master Rank. This guy is a beast. His combo damage is insane. Like, you don't have to look far or wide. You just hop on Twitter for a second and you're going to see this crazy combo from Ken you've never seen before that does massive damage, carries all the way from one corner to the other, and it's like, and he gets a setup afterwards, and it's like,
and then switches sides and takes you back to the other corner, and then he gets a setup afterwards.
It's like a Rainbow Edition character sometimes watching this guy go. So it's because of his damage, because of his combos, and then like Ken is not bad at zoning. His fireball's decent. His standing heavy punch is godlike. Like, he's got all the stuff he needs to be very competent in other areas of the game besides rushdown and mix-up. And it's like, oof. So this character I think is very, very good.
I am terrified of Patient Ken. I have him in S tier as well. I don't think he's number 1 overall. I won't say more on that until we get to another couple characters, but I do think that he has very, very strong neutral. He's obviously got very good rush down. He's got the high-low mix-ups. He's got stuff that's going to make you kind of pause, and then he can get in and be plus, and that sucks. Ken in your face is one of the scariest things. Maybe not the scariest, but it's up there. And I think I haven't played against Chris T, but I have played against him a lot in the past, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5 and whatnot. And I think about Ken in his hands, and he's got a certain amount of patience in and whiff punishing. That seems like is going to be so good, because yes, he can go in, but if he doesn't and he just lets you kind of hang yourself, or he makes you so worried about everything that he can get that, what's the name of the kick? I don't know off the top of my head, but it's the one that hops forward and is plus on block.
Dragon
that move,
Lash, I believe. Yeah.
Dragon Lash. I knew there was a dragon in there somewhere. So that move is, I love seeing it right now. It's very easily DI-able to me. That's one of the things. But I think it was, it doesn't matter who said it, someone said it. If you're just sitting there waiting to see that, then he's got 6 other ways that he can close the space on you and just get you with a low forward or something like that. So Ken has all the things that he needs to win. There might be another Shoto that's better than him at doing some of that stuff and is more well-rounded, but Ken can lop off the damage, he can get in, he can play neutral, he can go into the 1st gear, he can go to 5th gear, he doesn't really need the gears in between. So yeah, I think he's a very, very strong character. He's probably one up for nerfs, especially if you've got like characters like Lily that need to be competitive with him. But yeah, pretty strong through and through. It's like I don't see tons of weakness. It's more that just others might do some stuff a little bit better or might have a little bit better of a balance through and through. But Ken can absolutely get the job done.
Yeah, I have him at S rank as well. For all of the reasons that you guys said. I was actually going to touch on the point that his zoning is actually a bit better than you would expect from Ken. One of the things that I've run into as a Lily player is basically trying to get over his fireballs when I don't have Windclad, and it's like my best option is neutral jump and then try to Condor dive in, because it feels like no matter what range I try to jump over fireballs, he can get me, because he can do his run and then do uppercut. So it's kind of like, even if I'm trying to jump from further out just to get some space and not necessarily hit him, he can run and do uppercut, and then it's basically just like it just feels like he has the control there. And you were mentioning the Dragon Lash kick, like being heavily susceptible to drive impact. I agree there, and it's just like I feel like that's the only thing I've seen from Ken that is drive impactable. It's like that's the only thing I ever look for. I'm like, oh, I can drive impact here. Everything else is like, good luck. Good luck trying to find an opening. His pressure is insane. His damage, his combo damage is insane. He's really damn good.
What do you think of Juri, Steven? Where do you put Juri on the tier list?
Where did I put Juri? I believe I have Juri in A rank.
Okay,
Yeah.
so second category overall. What do you think of Juri?
Yeah, I think she's good, man. I feel like she's got a lot of really good rush down pressure. One of the things I've found myself being kind of like getting stuck in is her drive rush, like raw drive rush pressure after she knocks you down. It feels like she has a lot of options there, and it's basically, it's the guessing game that we kind of worried about with raw drive rush initially. I feel like I just get stuck in it, especially as a character who doesn't have an EX, DP and have to commit to super and all that. It's like I gotta hope that they mess up, and I just gotta either parry or just try to find some way out. But she seems like she has a lot of tools. She has really good anti-air, it feels like. She's got pretty ridiculous combos with like Feng Shui engine and all of that. I just see her as super solid, and she's got some really good rush down tools. Yeah, she seems pretty damn good.
What's keeping her out of S tier?
I think it's probably just characters doing things better and just kind of just excelling above the rest. Like, you have these characters that, like, so far who we've talked about, like Manon and JP and Ken, it's like those characters very obviously have these really great things, and it's like, I think maybe that's probably the only difference there. Like, Juri doesn't have that extra little bit of spice to her that makes her really, really good, but she's not bad by any means. Like, she's got a lot to work with, it feels like.
John, do you think she's got that spice, or do you think she lacks the spice?
I've got her in A tier, in 8th overall, and it's shocking how close to her Street Fighter V counterpart she is. She needs to back up and get resources, so she's not unlike Lily or something like that, where she needs to stock up with her Fuijin to really get good. Now, keep in mind, Juri players have really learned how to build up these resources over the years, and it's not super hard for her to just backdash, get a Fuijin charge out there, and boom, she's good. And then it's like, well, when do I get a turn against Juri when she's just all over me and doing her crazy stuff? That is really hard to deal with once she gets going. However, I don't think her neutral is super terrific. I think that those are really where her holes are at. And then defensively, she's solid as well, but like, she can do the EX pinwheel to get people offered, a few other things of that nature. But she needs to build up resources to get going that other characters don't have to do. That's always been the biggest drawback against Juri. But a couple people playing her right now are Mago, Nefu, Fujimura, Just a Kid, and then Reichman from Sweden, I believe, or from Europe, I should say. And but she's in the middle of the pack for usage in terms of how many people are playing her at 6 overall. I think she's a pretty good character, and you could definitely talk me into her being better than I have her right now, but I just don't think we have enough backing in terms of her performance from people, and then her Street Fighter V history, which again, I think she's very similar to that iteration of the character.
I don't know off the top of my head how much she relies on having a stock to do stuff. I assume obviously she can do more if she lands a hit and she has the fireball stocked or stuff like that. But I haven't noticed that playing against Juri as being like, if I can keep her from getting that, then it's a huge deal. I'd have to look into that more. But I do think that I, off the top of my head, have played more Juri than anyone else. When I go online, Juri pops up a lot for me. And in my experience, I have her in S tier. I think she's one of the best characters in the game. She controls the horizontal space or she traverses, I should say, the horizontal space incredibly well. If you saw our beta tier list, I had Chun-Li up at the top, and the reason I had her up at the top is because of the way she controls the horizontal space. I think Juri in my understanding now, is that Juri's a better version of Chun-Li, and she can do what Chun does there, but she doesn't have to do as much. She's not as technical, and the way she can just pounce forward on you, she can hang back and do a lot of the same kind of stuff that Ken does, but she is an explosive character, and once she pushes you into the corner, it's just hell. Like she's really got a lot of tools across the board. She's so fast that like I like, as a JP player, she's zipping through my stuff all the time. I gotta stop and wait, and it's like, well, okay, great, but now I can't really play my game, and I start throwing some fireballs out there, but that's such a stressful thing to do against this character. You can just zip past them, and she's got a dive kick. It's not the best dive kick in the world, but it's definitely a trajectory-changing dive kick that will make your anti-airs whiff, and then she's in. I think that because of her horizontal control and manipulation, that puts her way up there. Her main thing is, though, that because she operates in that horizontal space, she can be weak to projectiles, and the characters that can get projectiles on the screen are going to give her a hard time. So your Guiles and even your Ryus and stuff like that. JP, something like that, but his projectiles are not as much of like just the horizontal space control that, you know, spikes pop up from the ground. His fireballs don't have constant activity. They're not active until the very end. She can zip by them. The command grab does, but it's something that you can just jump right over if you see it. So I think she has a hard time, and like she puts it all in the horizontal, and she's really good there. She just struggles a little bit against fireballs, and that's why she's not at the very tippy top, but I still have her in S tier.
Yeah. And if you play against Velociraptor here and you have a move that alters your jump trajectory, do that every single time, because Velociraptor will get so pissed off. You'll see his face turn red, his head will explode. It's pretty awesome. So
I've gone through 7 or 8 heads since we started Street Fighter 6. Okay, next up on the list, Honda. Honda, oh my gosh, this is kind of scary because it's starting to sound like Honda's not just a gimmick character, that his traditional gimmicks are actually legit tactics. John, how do you feel about Honda?
Yeah, I've got Honda at B tier, 11th overall. He feels very close to middle of the pack. Not bad tools, but not outstanding. Pushing people to the corners with his forward-moving attacks is basically the name of the game with Honda, but you could also play a very lame defensive style and actually build up some resources and do some stuff here. So he's got something of a mixed thing with it, but I do think his offensive style with the way his movesets work is definitely the way to go. But I'm actually kind of shocked right now to see defensive people jumping out. Steven, I know you've been playing against a very lame Honda player. How exactly has that been going?
It's interesting for sure. I guess I can start this out by saying I've got Honda in S rank. Wow. I think Honda is really good in this game. His heavy headbutt has to be perfect parried pretty much. You can't DI it. You've got to, if you want to punish it, you have to either uppercut on reaction or perfect parry it. And it's like the Blanka thing, which we'll talk about later, but it's just kind of having to worry about that the whole time. It's like, I need to worry about this heavy headbutt because it's so oppressive, and even from full screen, it's like I need to be constantly worried about this, that it makes it hard to kind of do anything else against Honda because you're so preoccupied with that, at least in my experience, and it does feel like other people have felt that as well. But on top of that, his butt slam is like plus on block, I believe. His damage is ridiculous. Yes. His headbutt works well as an anti-air, like really well. Yes. His OD headbutt has armor and breaks through things. Like if you in a normal instance where he would DI, he could just do OD headbutt and it'll just plow right through you, kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff to him, but he's got great corner carry. Once he starts doing some drive rush stuff too, like just to cover that ground, like he's pretty damn fast. It's tough. Fighting Honda is tough right now, and I feel like a lot of people are struggling with him. Even like labbing that match myself, and I've gotten quite a bit of experience because I've had a couple of friends who play Honda, and I played against Vesper. We get matched up a lot in ranked, and he was playing a super lame Honda, just hanging back and basically stopping everything I could do with headbutt. And it's like you get to that point. Maybe it's a Lily thing. I don't know, but for me, I'm like, man, this character is really damn good. He's got a lot working for him this time.
So I have him in a different place than either of you. I have him in A tier. So not on the top, not third one down, second tier down. I didn't order them, but I would say low A tier. He's getting away with stuff right now, and I think it was Japan said that this is the most legitimate version of butt slam that the character has ever had. I don't know. All of his versions on that are +1 on block, so that is nice for him to have. But with perfect parry being a thing, I think it's just a matter of time before people are just perfect parrying that all day. I've had a decent amount of success perfect parrying headbutts. You're not going to get it every time, and when you don't, that thing's taken off almost a full bar of your drive meter. So blocking it is a win for him for sure, unless he's done one that's unsafe and you can punish it. But he does seem to have a lot of juice. And when he does hit you, he's got offense thanks to drive rush. He can do some pretty crazy combos that also corner carry. And like you said, John, I think it was that he can still play his traditional lame Honda game, but now it's got an element of offense that the character's kind of always lacked, and that might be a massive difference maker for him in the grand scheme of Street Fighter, because he's traditionally needed to get a life lead and then kind of sit on it and frustrate you. Now he can advance in ways that he never could before. That said, I think he's getting away with a lot of stuff right now, and again, as we learn the timings for perfect parries to counter things like just raw headbutts and whatnot, I wonder what that's going to do to the character. So hats off. I think this is probably the most solid and legitimate version of Honda that we've seen maybe ever. And that's really good. I think the way they've balanced a lot of these characters to make them not just based on gimmicks but like good in a legitimate way that's not overpowered but not like just a gimmick is good. But the jury is a little bit out on Honda for me in that I gotta see more of him before he settles into a spot. I do know that you never ever want to try to drive impact head or butt slam. It's amazing how
it'll throw you like a complete wrong direction. You'll be completely vulnerable. It's not even like you're fighting in the same match.
Yeah, it's like the game like autocorrects incorrectly to make sure you miss, and he comes down on the other side.
In the worst possible way, it makes you miss it completely. It's like horrible.
Yeah, but I mean, and my anti-air is like right above my head, the crouching fierce punch with JP, so I can counter butt slam pretty easily once you're looking for it. But Honda does seem like he's not just going to be a gimmick character, and I think that's good. But I don't think he'll be of the best. At least I hope not, man. I don't want to just get 100 hand slapped and butt slammed to death.
He's actually not unlike his Street Fighter V counterpart as well, because heavy offense, high damage burst, heavy offense is what he was in 5. But I also remember in that game that everyone, we're talking about how brain dead easy he was to play and other things, and then people started labbing the heck out of him, and he got to be a much worse character very quickly. It took a handful of months to get there, but he is. There are 93 Master Rank players playing Honda right now. He is tied for 4th overall. But again, this very heavily reflects Street Fighter V in the stats there, but also a callback here to Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, where I wonder in that game, Honda beats everyone without a fireball generally in the tier list. That's how Honda works. In this game, having a fireball that moves horizontally against Honda, a traditional fireball like Ryu or Guile, it helps out that matchup a ton. But the people playing them are Prototype, Goichi, and GamerB. That's a pretty darn good list of people here. Prototype, of course, played him in the prior game as well, along with Alex. So no shock there. But he's got some juice. I think this is going to be I don't think he's going to fall to the low tier like he has in the past. I think he's going to hang right around the mid tier, even long term. But as John was saying here, I think there's going to be a lot of downloading of this character, and he's getting away with murder right now when that's not going to happen here 2 months down the road.
Moving on, we've got Big Mama Marisa. Man, everybody got super excited about this character. Then we started seeing some Twitter clips of her lopping off 70-80% of your health, and everyone's like, oh, I hate that, but I kind of secretly like it. I want to see that windscreen get carried away, baby. She's been all over the place. As far as I've seen, there have been very scared tweets about her. There have been very confident tweets about her. John, where do you think of Marisa?
I've got her in B tier, 14th overall. I might be a little higher on this character than most other people, but she has been being played by Shuto, the Urian player from Street Fighter V, Big Bird, and Haitani. Those are all very good people. And then you start getting in there and doing your basic research against her, like, drive impacts and other stuff. And it's like, ooh, like she starts to fall a little apart here when you're just playing like straight up fundamentals and footsies. And she has to work pretty hard. She's got her charge punch forward, which, breaks armor and does a bunch of other things that can usually be safe if you space it correctly. It leads her to a ton of mix-ups. This is actually the character I've played against quite a bit. Maybe the number one character I played against. And so I really was hyped about this character. I thought, hey, the new version of Abigail 2.0 and stuff. No, she's definitely not. She's very much her own character, and she's got to be pretty methodical, pretty patient to get wins in this game. So I think she's good, but maybe average would be a better way of saying it, or maybe below average, since I've got her at 14.
Where'd you stick Massive Mommy Marisa, Steven?
I actually have her in A rank, which might be a little bit surprising, but I feel like there's definitely some holes in her pressure and stuff, but she has things that she can do to kind of mitigate that. Like there's her big beefy "this is Sparta" kick, and then her Superman punch. You'll have Marisa players doing that in neutral, and those are super heavily drive impactable. But if she does the EX version of the Superman punch, it breaks your armor, so you can't DI
and
that.
Then that's your ass.
That's your ass. So that's the other point with her, is that there are some holes there, but once she touches you, it's your ass. Like she can, like I've had so many instances where like I made that one mistake, I've got like 70% of my health bar left, and it's just done, dude. She just goes in, does this combo. Yeah, it's like this combo that goes on way longer than you think it's gonna go, ends it with level 3, and it's your ass, and it's done. And it's like, well, okay, sure. So I think that people expect her to be a little bit more of like, maybe her offensive pressure was going to be harder to get through kind of thing. Maybe I think people were a little bit disappointed with like her charged heavy punches and stuff make her plus on block and things like that. And there are some gaps there that I think people didn't expect to be there, which is why you're seeing like some of the pros that tried her out kind of dropped her and stuff. But I think that once she touches you, she makes you pay for it more than any character in this game. Like the damage she can put out on that stuff, especially with the proper resources, like forget it, dude. If you make a mistake around her, like I've lost so many rounds to Marisa like that, where I'm winning, I'm controlling things, I'm doing my thing, and then I just had that one input error, or like I did an SPD on accident instead, and that's it, man. It's over, and it's like
she's very, very high reward. I would say she's also fairly high risk, but and I have her in B tier as well, to John, I believe. So she does hit maybe the hardest in the game, pound for pound, and that's nothing to scoff at. She also sends you to the corner pretty quickly with both her super level 3 and just with her standard combos, drive impacts, and send you pretty far horizontally. But I think that she's also a scrub killer right now, and myself included. I've lost plenty of rounds to Marisa, but it's because I don't really understand where the gaps are to interrupt and such, and so I'm just kind of playing by reaction and feel, and I feel like I've done decently well even doing just that. Once she goes into the lab, and once you know, okay, this isn't real, that's not real, she's picked up so many extra hits, and those extra hits are a big deal. But when she stops picking up extra hits like that, which I know she's doing more than she will by a lot, I think, right now in this early stage, the character might fall apart a little bit. I also hear that her anti-airs are pretty terrible relative to a lot of the rest of the cast, so jumping on her is scary. She's also got a little bit of kind of gimmicks in that, like, she goes into her parry stance, and then she can either go into a grab or not, but people are still kind of attacking that when you need to throw it, things along those lines. I think she's going to get labbed and fall down into like B tier, but she can feel like an S tier character when she's on you, and when you don't know when to contest, or when you try to drive impact her and like a non-drive impact armor breaking move breaks you and then he goes into 70%. Yeah, for sure. But again, experience with this character, I think that when it comes down to it, with that high of a reward, she comes with an equal risk, and if they have balanced that, like that, it's too much. She needs a little more balance in order to be an effective character when she's shooting from half court all the time, and I think that's going to be more what she's doing. In the end, I don't think that's going to come out with a ton of wins. So maybe, but right now that's kind of how I see her. Next on the list, I see Luke Luke being played by, well, John will know this better than me. I know that Tokido's playing him, and I know I'm running into a lot of Lukes right now, and I know he's the new Ryu of Street Fighter. And in terms of Ryu in Street Fighter, at least in Street Fighters 4 and 5, which is when I've been on the train, Ryu's been one of the best characters to start in vanilla, and then gets mega nerfed because he's way too good, and then spends the rest of the time getting back up there. But Luke definitely following at the first chapter of that, being a very effective character as far as I can tell. But Steven, we'll start with you this time. How is Luke? Where do you place him?
I have Luke at S rank, but I think I have him kind of like he'd probably like my list isn't ordered by number, but he'd probably be like lower S rank, I would say. He's interesting, man. He's one of those characters where it's like he definitely has tools for every situation. It seems like he does pretty darn well in the neutral game. I feel like his walk speed and his ability to shimmy and stuff is really good, which I think might actually help a lot with kind of his tier placement, because we are seeing pros place him in the S rank as well. When he touches you, if he's got the right resources and he's got the execution, he can tack on the damage really quickly. Interesting fireball, which can be hard to get around. He's kind of got stuff for everything, and it just feels like he holds his own a lot. Like, maybe he's not like I guess the way I kind of see it, he's not really like an explosive S rank where you look at him and you go, oh my god, he's definitely one of the best in the game, right? Like you have other characters who do things that are much flashier, who like some of the characters we've talked about already. But for him, I just feel like he's just incredibly solid and has a lot of things at his disposal. And it's just kind of hard to pick him apart. It feels like it's hard to kind of get the advantage on him in a lot of instances.
John, how do you feel about Luke?
I've got him in S rank as well, 4th overall, and that's also the master ranked players, 93 of them. He's 4th overall, tied with Honda. The biggest drawback I can see with Luke is he is very resource dependent, and so awareness of situations and not overcommitting in that spots is very important with Luke, because he needs his resources to really access his complete tool set and to get going. But he is still equipped with numerous high-end tools. It's even possible I'm lightly underrating him at 4th overall. If you said that he shoots up to the 2nd or 3rd spot or even 1st overall, I would not argue against you, especially with a murderer's row of people playing him. You guys already mentioned Tokido, but also Bonchan, Kawano, Kusanagi, No Other Prodigy, Space Boy, and then Dual Kevin. They're all playing this guy. This is the new Ryu. And unlike Ryu, he wants to get up in your face. He has excellent corner carry to do so once he does. This is a guy to be very fearful of if you're not seeing him played a lot at high levels, because it's coming and he's going to whoop your butt.
Yeah, I have him also in S rank. I think this is the first character besides Lily that we've all agreed on. I don't know if he's the best in the game, but I do have a hard time. I've played a significant amount of Lukes, and he does seem like he doesn't have any glaring weaknesses outside of, obviously you can jump a fireball, you can whiff punish a missed attack, things like that. But I don't see where he's got some like glaring problem. He can do everything really well. He's got like straight A minuses across the board, whether that be in zoning, whether it be in rushdown, whether it be in neutral, whether it be in corner. If his biggest thing is that he's got to pay extra attention to spending his resources correctly, it's like, that sounds like a pretty good candidate for best in the game. He does everything very effectively, and I don't see a hole in his game. I think it was Topanga said, or I think it was Tokido, but if you want to make that money, that $1 million for winning Capcom Cup, you're playing Luke. This is the character that's the most obvious path to victory
John,
in terms of what Topanga says.
When has anyone ever won a tournament playing Luke?
Yeah. And it feels like that momentum carrying over from Street Fighter 5. I don't see what this and then I said earlier, like it comes down to JP, is like it's a player versus player. It feels like that's the case with Luke too, but he's got a lot of intuitive abilities and no very obvious weaknesses. It's like, dude, if it's up to you, and if someone like Tokido's on the other side of the sticks with a character like this, and it's player versus player, and that's, I think, essentially how Tokido would feel about it too, if he's saying what he's saying about the character. Candidate for best in the game. I don't feel it firsthand, but with what I've seen and what I've heard, it's like that resonates just fine with me. So S tier for sure, maybe the best, we'll see. Next up on the list, we've got Chun-Li. I put Chun-Li in the top for the beta characters. I've changed my tune a little bit on her, and I'll start this one. I haven't started any of these yet. I've got Chun-Li in A tier, and I know I talked about her a little bit when Juri came up. I still think that she's got great horizontal control, and that's a very effective thing in this game. When it comes down to it, though, her technicality is, and the fact that she doesn't have a throw loop seems to be a big thing. She's one of the very few characters that when she gets you in the corner, she doesn't have that automatic threat of throw loop. And when it all comes down to it, she might just be a not as good Juri, but she's got amazing walk speed. She's got amazing conversions. She's got amazing reach. Not the best in the way of anti-air. She's got good anti-airs, but she's got a lot of them, and so maybe you can get in on her at the jump and stuff like that, where other characters have a more simplified anti-air situation. So kind of like a burden when it comes to juggling everything, and maybe you have just as many strengths if you're playing Juri, so why not Juri? And that's what I sort of feel about Chun-Li now. So that knocks her down to A tier for me. John, how do you feel about Chun?
Yeah, I played her in the beta, and I was really happy I dropped her and went back to Guile. I've got her at C tier, 15th overall, and then with the Master Rank players, there's 53 of them, and that puts Chun-Li at 12th. So this is like one of the more popular characters in the franchise when she's good. When she's not good, you generally just see the mainstays play her, usually. There's one exception here with Sako playing Chun-Li right now, but you've got people like Valmaster, Filipino Man, Ricky Ortiz, Ray, Alex Myers. Those are all former Chun-Li players. Like, everyone who plays her in the past is basically playing her now. She's good enough to compete. I want to make this very clear that I think this game is a lot like Street Fighter V in terms of the tier rankings, where you can have characters lower on the tier rankings, but they're still viable in tournament. Lily might be an exception to that, but pretty much everyone else seems pretty darn good, at least viable enough to play in tournament. But I'm not a big believer in this character. I think that she doesn't do enough stuff better than most of the cast, and so I think she just kind of falls on the weaker side of stuff, where you can play her if you really like the character, but the incentives to play her in terms of strength, they're just not there.
Steven, thoughts on Chun-Li?
Yeah, I have her at A rank. I think that the biggest hang up for her, or the biggest hurdle that you have, is how technical she is. But I do think that in the hands of the right player and people who know what to do there, she has a ton of options. I know we've talked about her anti-airs in the past, but I don't see her anti-airs as weak at all. I don't think I've ever gotten past her up kicks, and I believe her up kicks are just a down input, so it's not like you have to be charging or anything like that. You can absolutely react. Plus, she's got, like you guys said, like 6 other options for anti-air there. She's got some pretty crazy conversions and things she can do with combos and stuff. And once she's up close with her pressure and her stance cancels and things, it's hard to keep track of where she's going and what she's going to do. Plus, as you mentioned, Jonathan H., you've got the her horizontal control with normals and things like that, and she has a lot of juice. It's just hard to get there, and I think that's the biggest issue with her and why we don't see too many people playing her. But you've got somebody like Sako playing her, and that is like, Sako flourishes with highly technical characters. That might end up being a perfect character for him, and we might be seeing something there similar to Manon in Street Fighter V, where initially it was like, yeah, maybe she's kind of good, but she's not great, but in the future she's going to be really good because people
is she worth the squeeze though, or can other people do like Juri? Can they just do what she does better, so just do the better character, do the easier route?
I think right now for a lot of people she's not worth the squeeze, and please, that sounds very wrong, but but I think eventually down the road she might end up being super solid for the people who do put that time in. And again, Sako playing her, for me, I go, all right, let's see where he goes with that character, because he might take her to a level where people go, oh my god, Chun-Li's great, how come we didn't see it? And it's like, yep, Sako saw it there and he put the time in, kind of thing. So I do think right now she's not like, she doesn't stand out a ton because she's so technical, and people don't really want to bother with that right now, and that's how it usually works with new games and stuff like that. But I think she's one of those, when she has time to simmer, and down the road, we're going to see some people, the people who stuck with her are going to do well with her.
Yeah, I can't believe you guys are not wanting to squeeze Chun-Li, because you need to take a couple looks at her model here. But I want to clarify one thing, because people keep saying, that we're saying that her anti-airs are weak. I don't think her anti-airs are weak. I think they're a lot to handle with playing her footsies and her reach game all at the same time and being ready to consistently anti-air. That is a true challenge when you play a technical character like this. To be ready to react to that is very hard.
Japan also noted two things on that. I think that Sako said that she's especially technical, and if someone like Sako, who's known as the most execution savvy player on the planet ish, says that's something. And then also that when it comes to her anti-airs, characters that have a DP, you can do that walking very easily in Street Fighter 6, and her down input requires just a little more. You have to stop and do it, and then that's a little bit of a difference compared to the characters that can just be walking forward and do it. So a little less effective there, but yeah. Was that all you had?
I can mash my head into the joystick on Guile's crouching heavy punch and get anti-airs. So it's
and I can hit Lily's crouching heavy punch and land it 10% of the time. That's great.
Yeah, it's you're just gonna get jumped right through, and they're gonna blow right through her hitbox that probably doesn't even exist. So just a mirage. Yeah.
Got us a particularly controversial character next, Kimberly. Steven, you played Kimberly in the beta. I haven't seen any Kimberly since, but have you played against any Kimberlys since we've got the game out officially, and how do you feel like she fares?
I have played against some Kimberlys. I think she's probably maybe B tier now. She had a pretty significant change with the launch version in her EX Tatsu, no longer being strike invincible, so it's not like an EX reversal anymore, or an overdrive reversal, which is pretty significant. It's not the biggest thing, but the difference between having an OD reversal and not, especially if you had it before and they took it away, that sucks. But I think she still does what she does, and if she gets you in the corner, she's still going to make it hell for you. I just think that I feel like there's some characters that we had with the beta tests that just aren't getting that attention anymore because the launch characters are just outshining them, and I feel like Kimberly's kind of part of that as well. She still does what she does well, I think. It's just a matter of there are other characters with more interesting tools now that people are like, I'm going to put more time into that instead. But I still think she's solid for sure. I just, again, once she gets you in the corner, it's mix-up city. That's what she has to do. But it's like, I just feel like people are just investing their time into other characters now because they've got more options and they're just more consistent.
John, what do you feel? Do you have her in B tier as well? Or do we have a second?
Yeah, I've actually got her in B tier, 9th overall. Massive nerfs are the reason why. She lost a ton of stuff, including her unblockable dumb loops that she had before. And she's very difficult to stop, as Steven mentioned, once she gets you pinned down in the corner and she's tossing spray paint cans your way. It's like, what the heck do I even do to this? And you feel insanely locked down. And then when she converts a combo after that, she's draining 25-35% of your life, depending on what her setup was. Insanely fast walk speed and mobility. She can shimmy like she's right up there with Dee Jay in terms of best shimmies around. She has throw loops. You couple all this stuff together and it's like, okay, like I can see the Ibuki players and the very specialist like rushdown players who are great in prior games picking up this character and doing quite well with her. But now she has defined nerfs with some of her anti-air and some of her reversal game, which is really nice to see. So you got Ravenho and then Shine. And then Fly does not like me talking about Kimberly here. But you've got those guys back playing her. And then she's 8th overall in terms of master rank players with 77 people playing her. So she is still very viable, very good, but she just has clearly defined weaknesses now.
Yeah. So, okay. Gimmicks to get in. And that's not nothing in this game. Because she can run at you, she can run overhead, she can do the jumpy kicks and then come back. And is she going to come back at you? Is she going to come back at you with a grab? Is she going to go over you and try to cross you up? And then she's got the guy elbow drop that's given people trouble for 25 years now or whatever it's been. So there's a lot of gimmicks there, and you're never going to be ready for all of them. So at a certain level, they are legitimate in that they help her get in. And once she's in, she's got some stuff. And you guys already listed all that, all of her corner resets and chaos and mix-ups. Also, when she's up next to you, she can shimmy like crazy. She'll put you in a plus situation. She'll back off and just wait to see if you do anything and stick that standing heavy punch. Once she's got that, she goes into more legit stuff. So while I don't think she's the most honest character, and I do think that her effectiveness is gonna wane over time as people understand the gimmicks and whatnot, it's got a floor to it. And because of that, I have her in A tier. I don't hate the idea of putting her down into B tier like you guys do, But I do think because of how much of a menace she can be once she does get up in your face and how often she can actually do that, that combination's not nothing. So low A, high B, something like that. But I wouldn't want to see her any higher than that, because when the character's just zipping around the screen and using gimmicks to get close to you and then is really effective, it's like that's a recipe for not very well designed. So she's kind of as strong as I'd like to see her, but I think she has some viable stuff.
Yeah, and just to that point, I actually had her in A initially, and I kind of made a judgment call at the last minute there to put her in B. But I could interchange her exactly the same way that you mentioned there, like low A, high B. I think that seems pretty fair.
When you have a character this technical with this many tools, you may see some major stuff unlocked with her with some time here. Like this might be a character who really jumps further than people expect. So when technical characters just have so much potential sometimes that is not realized until a handful of months later on down the road.
Right.
Next up on the list, we've got Dee Jay. Traditionally not the greatest character, and this time around he's getting a little bit more attention and a little bit more fireworks around his name. Steven, where did you rank Dee Jay?
Ooh, I got Dee Jay at S rank. Easy S rank. Dee Jay
Easy S.
He is interesting, man. This character, he's, first of all, you've probably seen this on Twitter lately, but he's got the fastest drive rush in the game. It is lightning fast. It's crazy when you see it in action. And I didn't think much of it at first, and then I kind of started seeing comparisons, and I'm like, oh my god, why is that so fast? But hey, man, I think Capcom's making up for years of making this character bad. They're definitely making up for Street Fighter 4. But his drive rush is really fast. He has excellent damage. He's got pressure and mix up for days with his just cool, his sway. He's got overheads with that. He's got lows. He's got he's got feints, fireball feints that he can go into, like use them to extend combos similar to Poison's whip cancels in Street Fighter 5. He's got Sobot kick feints on the ground and in the air, like the up kicks. He can feint up kick and go for like a cross up and a mix up, and above all things, his heavy punch machine gun upper does 2,200 damage raw. That is unreal. And I know it's hard to hit that. You have to hit that through like juggle combos and stuff, but 2,200 for a normal special move that doesn't use any meter is crazy. But that character has so much, man. Like I think he's really good. I don't put him as like best in the game. I still think somebody like Manon or JP just get more, but he is a really good pick right now. I feel like I'm seeing a lot of people play him. He's damn good, man.
John, do you agree?
Yeah, I think that Dee Jay is good, but I think he's also going to get found out a little bit. I've got him in A tier, 7th overall. Hot Dog 289, the Bison player, and then Hawaiian Shirt Man. They are making people's lives hell. If you want awesome shimmies and mix-ups, this is your character. Crazy good combos, very high damage. Actually, where I think Dee Jay actually has issues is he's mostly B pluses except for the rush down and mix-up stuff. That's where he's an A plus, maybe the best in the game in terms of shimmies. But when he goes out to zone, you can just, he does his double air slasher, just huck an EX Fireball right through that, and it blows him up. And he does not have as many strengths as you might think on paper when you really start to break down the character. So I think he's going to fall apart a little bit here, but I do think he's overall quite good.
Yeah, I have him in S tier, and I haven't experienced a ton of Dee Jay on the other side, on the two-player side, so to speak, but seeing what he's got, I hear that he's got second overall best damage in the game to Marisa with his combos and such. I did play Hawaiian Shirt Man for like 20 seconds because it was a quick 4 rounds of just, he was in my face, I was just dead, and the times that I got the chance for some offense, he just parried my stuff and was ready to go. That's going to take some time in the lab to beat this character with all of his sways, with all of his fakes, with all of his sudden pounces. And I hear that you're not really supposed to play the character as a charge character. He's got such good offense and good presence that those are kind of bonuses. As far as I think that was also from Japan, that he's really just a neutral rushdown character and zips up in your face and shimmies and scoots back, and then that opens up so many things for him because he's throwing so much potential at you at once that, like, how are you ready for this kind of a thing? But unlike Kimberly, it doesn't feel like a lot of these things are gimmicks. And was it, Infiltration. He's like, I can react to pretty much everybody's drive rush raw in this game except for DJ's. I can't react to his. And so like if that's the case and he's got free jump on you pressure like that, or your reaction is just long enough to get you to stop blocking and get counter hit, that's going to be pretty strong. So we'll see. Like you say, John, he's weird, he's different, and that's going to imply that people are going to have to spend some time with the lab with him, and that might send him down a little bit, but he's showing a lot of promise right now. So yeah. Pretty easy S for me too.
Yeah, 70 people playing a master rank right now. That's a 9th overall on the list. So it's going to be, I'm really curious if he's going to grow in popularity or decrease in popularity. And I think that's really going to define his tier ranking for a lot of people, because he might be getting away with some stuff that it's just not legit. But you look at his damage and his shimmies and you go, man, we had a lot of years of Street Fighter V and we saw how great that is. DJ does that better than maybe anyone in the game. So he might just go further up.
Man, just crazy mobility and speed and shimmies and damage. It sounds like we're talking about Cammy, at least in Street Fighter V. But now Cammy in Street Fighter 6, not exactly the same thing that we saw, or maybe not. I don't know. There's still more to unearth here. But Steven, where'd you put Cammy on this tier list?
Okay, so I might be a little bit biased because I feel like I've just been struggling with Cammy. I feel like Cammy can do Cammy things in this game and get away with it, and maybe that's just because I'm a Lily player. Maybe it's a matchup thing, but it feels like it's really hard to stop her from when she's doing stuff. And if she gets conversions, she can get some pretty damn good damage. Like, people have said she has low damage. Man, I don't know. I haven't seen much of that. I mean, maybe, but she's got a lot of she's got the empty low mix-ups or the empty jump mix-ups into low, and she's got, she can change her trajectory with dive kicks and do all these extensions, and she can now charge some of her special moves with the heavy version to get more damage and more hits and things like that. She seems like Cammy to me, man. I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess I should say I've got her in A rank as well, but she seems like Cammy. It seems like more of the same. It seems like Cammy players that love to, jump and hold forward and just keep hitting buttons and never stop can do it in this game too, and they're not going to struggle. It feels like she's just fine as Cammy.
So yes, but I have noticed on things like her dive kick, for instance, to get in is not as effective, or has a longer lingering hurt box on it, so that you can actually have a fighting chance at little things like that if she gets stopped there's a lot of things after that, like the situations after that get shut down as a result, and I think that's been important. But she's been hard for me to place too. I have her in B tier. Mm-hmm. Just like opposite of Kimberly, I would have no problem putting her up in A. I haven't seen the potential yet in my own experiences, and I haven't seen people talking about her to the extent that I would sway me in one direction or another. I think she's got potential that hasn't been explored, but I also think that Capcom went out of their way to make sure that Cammy wasn't the nuisance that she was for so long, because that would sort of eclipse the rest of the game and everyone would just be distracted, like, oh, of course Cammy's doing the Cammy things again and ruining the game for half the cast that can't do anything against her. I think that they've taken that kind of stuff out, so we'll see as people figure out more legitimate approaches with her. I think Punk is playing her, so that'll be a good kind of barometer going forward to see how he does with her and if he sticks with her and whatnot. But I do have her in B tier. She could definitely go up to A tier. I don't see S tier and I don't see C tier, so that's where I got her. How about you, John?
Yeah, I've got her in A tier, 5th overall, right below my S tier ranking characters. You mentioned Punk, but also Kazunoko, who's one of the more YOLO players you will ever run across, who's high level. Kazunoko's never seen a DP he didn't want to do, and then
you miss 100% of the DPs you don't take.
And then some people just he usually picks characters that struggle to be punished in situations that other people would. I think Cammy has some of that here in this game, but I also think her dive kicks are easier to deal with, but her spin knuckle is much better in this version than it was in 5. So this character actually kind of reminds me of where she was in 5, where she's not top end, but she's still good and very viable. And she was just a massively brain dead character in the prior game, where pretty much anyone could pick her up and play her competently. I think that has changed this time around, and I do think she takes skills with her light confirms and other things. That's where her damage is a little bit lacking, but the thing about it is once Cammy gets in on you in this game, it's not easy to push her back, and she has multiple options to approach on you and a better counter fireball game than she's had in quite some time. this is like, she's got a very complete tool set here. And then the other player who's playing her is Hurricane, who is a Warlord Cammy player from Europe as well, who's very top end, very, very, very good. So the number of master rank players playing her, 86, and that puts her at 7th overall in terms of popularity.
John, tell me about Blanka.
I've got Blanka B, 13th. He is the master of shenanigans, and he has never been better at this aspect of fighting. And he has a litany of attacks who just keep people guessing and off guard. It is so hard to know what Blanka is going to do and what he's going to set up. I had this Blanka player when I would do a dumb flash kick and other stuff, which I will definitely do. He was doing these loop punish combos on me that are like 9 to 12 hits. He was mixing in Blanka Chan dolls that would juggle me, and he would juggle me up with the stuff. He was doing the V-Trigger 2 mix-ups from Street Fighter 5, and I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, what does Blanka not have in terms of a moveset? I looked over it, and I'm like, oh no, he has everything plus more. That's a really good way of looking at Blanka, but that toolset has never been particularly strong and great overall, and so I think that when he starts falling apart, when he starts being predictable, is really where you can blow up this character, and he's not as good then, but he has so many moves. If you can keep that wild style going, he is very good at that. And then lastly here, the people playing him, Nishikin, Flash Metroid, Coach Steve, Alex Valle, and then Wolfgang. It's, those are some pretty darn good players.
Valle's rocking Blanka. Yeah. Wow.
Probably to troll.
I gotta, well, interessante, not Ryu, huh? I'm gonna talk to Valle about that. Steven, what do you think about Blanka?
I've actually surprisingly, I've gotten quite a bit of experience playing Blanka. I run into him quite a bit, and there's a couple of higher level Blanka players that I seem to run into like pretty often. I have him in A tier, man. I think that this might be the best version of Blanka, surely, that we've seen in the last few years, the last few games, but maybe the best version of him ever. And I don't want to speak to like the old Street Fighter 2 days, because there might be one version of that game where he's just ridiculous and the best in the game that I don't know about. But
hyper fighting, he's real good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It might be like hyper fighting Blanka, where he's just ridiculously good. But I think this is the best Blanka we've seen in a very long time. He's got the heavy beast ball thing where it's like you kind of just have to hold it for a lot of characters, because drive impact doesn't do anything for it. It's you perfect.
Is that not the one where you late drive impact and it catches him on the way down?
Not that I've seen. I've seen that it seems that heavy punch beast ball was a problem for people. Maybe they figured something out there, but from the counters that I've seen, I think Jam Crofts even made like a whole video around it because it was so like oppressive and stuff. And I think like Guile's the only character that can punish it on block or something like that. With his Sonic Hurricane Super. But it's the mix up of that versus light beast ball. Good Blanka players that know the spacing on the beast balls can do like the empty ones and land right in front of you, get a combo, get a grab on you. Once he gets going, man, I mean, he's got really good pressure, it feels like. As Catalyst was saying, he's got these drive rush combos that if he hits you, he just starts juggling you, and you're like, dude, where is this coming from? Like, he's throwing in medium kicks and all this crazy stuff, and you go, wow, like, I did not think he could do that. His standing heavy kick is, from what I've seen, a great anti-air, because if it does counter hit or punish counter, I believe, it's a full juggle. Like, it's like his flipping kick where he like does the backflip, launches the opponent up, he can get a full juggle from that. He's also happens to be pretty damn good against Lily, because Coward Crouch goes under all of her Condor Spires, even the Wingclad stuff. So he can do that in neutral if he thinks you're going to do Condor Spire to close the gap. Gets a full juggle combo off of that. He's got the level 2 super stuff, the V-Trigger from Street Fighter 5. He just has a lot. And like, man, it's crazy. Like the Blankas that I fought, they haven't even had to use the Blanka Chan doll much, and it's like, wow, like there's that whole other layer of it too that I've seen some crazy stuff with. So I think he's definitely a tricky character. He's definitely shenanigans based and stuff, but he feels like he's going to be hard to pin down. Definitely a character that's going to suffer more when you figure out more of how he works, and I felt that myself, but I still feel like he's got such a revolving door of options and different things that he can throw at you that it's like, I mean, you got to hope that you guess the right ones and you shut down the right ones, right? Because he's got something else in his back pocket waiting for you.
I'm terrified of running into a super competent Blanka, like a Nishikin or something like that. With what I've played against him so far, I don't think I've had a perfect track record against him, but I've done well But at the same time, I feel like there's potential that like, oh man, once they figure out this like situation, and I can see the gimmicky setups where I'm blocking, and there's plenty of light Blanka balls right up to your face where they don't actually hit you, and then he throws you or whatever. What's he gonna start doing with once they figure out all of the Blanka Chan doll tech and all that kind of stuff? I think it was Apology Man was doing some crazy stuff in the corner with that setup where it's like nothing that you do really gets you out of it. So I do think that he's definitely got crazy potential, but then like you said, Steven, it's like a double deke in that like he's gonna get better with the craziness, but people are also gonna have, there's gonna be answers. They're not gonna make this the best character in the game. They're not gonna make this gimmick craziness gonna be the most effective thing. So I think a lot of it's gonna be on us to like study the character and figure things out. And then once you do that, I think he's gonna sift down or settle down into like, I have him in B tier right now, so the third category overall. He might be A tier. He better not be even higher than mid A tier because that's just zany, wonky, crazy Blanka stuff. But I do feel the potential. I think there's going to be a lot of heartache in tournament for people losing to crazy Blanka stuff, which is what the character is. But I've never been a fan of, like, I can appreciate he's a cool design, he's a cool idea, he diversifies up the cast in a way that no one else does, and he has since like almost the very beginning of Street Fighter. But man, it sucks having to learn a whole different game or a whole different strategy against this wonky craziness. I think there have even been times where I perfect parry a Blanka ball and it doesn't do anything for me except for get the meter back because he zips backwards. I'm like, all right.
I can't believe you called Blanka a cool character because he's the most hated character in Street Fighter history almost.
Well, he's got some fans though. Like people love the character.
I
they
like
love
Blanka.
to troll with them. Yeah,
I actually like Blanka. I don't like fighting him because he's of course annoying. But as a character, like I've actually always liked Blanka and used to play him in the early vanilla Street Fighter 4 days. But he's always held a special place in my heart, even though he can be really annoying to fight.
I love that you played T-Hawk and Lily, and Blanka just destroys both characters.
Oh, yeah.
They kept They kept the tradition
go.
going, man. They're like, oh yeah, T-Hawk struggled against Blanka, so let's make Lily do it too. Why not?
8-2 matchup. Let's go.
Let's talk about another character. All right, Jamie is next up on the list. Jamie was obviously pretty prominent in the betas. And now I don't think he's as prominent, and people are saying he's not all that he's cracked up to be. John, what do you think about Jamie?
Yeah, I thought this character would be far better than he ended up being, but his weaknesses to fireballs and his drink level up system compared to someone like Manon's is an absolute joke, as it resets every round, and while she keeps hers the entire match. I do think that at level 4, Jamie, that is still an extremely good character, but actually getting there consistently seems to be a bridge too far for this fighter right now, so I've got him in C tier, 17th overall, just one spot above Lily.
Interesting. Let me ask you this. Do you think level 4 Jamie, if he gets there, is the best character in the game?
I thought that in the beta. I no longer think that because you've talked about this a lot, Velociraptor. His weaknesses to fireballs are very pronounced, and I am seeing numerous people, the two people playing him that are notable, JB and Bolt Strike. I am seeing all the people who are playing Jamie basically just say, like, what am I supposed to do consistently against fireballs? And I don't have an answer for them. It's like I know what his answers are, but they're not good answers. So it's like, okay, hey, I'm going to write my answers down in a test, but I'm still going to get a D- in a best case scenario against fireballs. It's like, ugh. I don't envy Jamie players right now. I was really wrong about this character from the beta.
Steven, where have you placed Jamie?
I've got Jamie at B. I think he's interesting because I still think he's solid. I don't necessarily think he's like bad. I just think that he's just been outshined by so many other characters, and I think that's his biggest weakness. Obviously, he struggles against fireballs and stuff like that, and having done like a guide before the game came out, just kind of breaking down what all of his levels are and what he gets and all that, I still don't know how I'd feel about like drinks rolling over type of thing, because that might be too good. But I just think other characters do everything that he wants to do just better, and I think that's really given a that's made his usage rankings take a big hit, because you just don't see him. You don't see him a lot. I've run into maybe a couple Jamies since launch, and it's like, yep, he still does what he does, but you just have characters like Manon and JP and all these other characters that are like so much more extreme and so much better in different ways that it's like, why are you going to play Jamie? Like, and I do think there's a little bit of that for some of the other some of the other characters that were in the beta as well, like Kimberly is a good example. It's like a character that was, prominent in the beta, looked really good, but then you have launch and you have all these characters that are they're just more interesting, and they just do better things, and it's like you're seeing those beta characters kind of fall to the wayside in exchange for some of these better launch characters.
And just on the note of popularity, he's got 38 Master Rank players, which is 14th overall, so very close to the bottom of the list here for Jamie.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I run into Jamie, and actually I think JB's been the Jamie I've run into the most. He's not a free win, but not at all. And interesting enough, at least the way JB has played him against me, he's not really aimed to get level ups. He's just kind of gone and like, if I can get in on you, I'm getting in on you because I can't deal with the fireballs very effectively, something like that. But I do think that he's a really cool character. He's got some really cool moves, albeit that they're locked behind the level up system. I think there needs to be some kind of rebalance in his level up system. I don't know if I said it. I have him down in C tier, maybe a high C tier, and he would be okay in B tier. I'd be fine with that. But as things stand now, he either needs to like lose 2 drinks between rounds, something like that, so he's not just going back to level 1, or maybe he needs to drink like 6 or 7 times to get all the way up to the top, but he doesn't lose them. Something like that. I think that Capcom should play around doing those kind of things, because when he does get up there, he's got a command grab, he's got a dive kick, he's got Rekkas and a bunch of Japan was saying he's got like all of the Doom moves, or the moves that people hate the most. And you don't want him to turn into like another Yun or Yang or something like that. But he does feel like, with as cool as he is, and as interesting as that level up system is, I think that they're leaving some stuff on the table because these people are just turned off. He has to work too hard to get there, and the rewards aren't quite enough. The rewards are kind of scary, but like you said, John, I agree. I don't think even level 4 Jamie is the best in the game because he lacks that fundamental ability to get through fireballs. Maybe if he gets to level 4, he can get through fireballs like effectively. If he sees them and hasn't done anything, he can do his breakdance fighting through the fireballs, and it's consistent every time, something like that. But he needs more of a reward, and I'm kind of nervous about that because he's doing 110% damage once he gets up to level 4, but he starts at 90%, right? So it's like it's interesting. He needs to be rebalanced in some way, but definitely isn't getting it because he isn't cutting it right now. Ryu's interesting right now because he's been close to the top. I've also seen him put like right in the middle of things. How are you guys feeling about Ryu? And by you guys, I mean Steven.
Yeah, I got to play quite a bit of Ryu in the demo, obviously, and I played him primarily in the 3rd beta. Ryu is interesting in, again, the sense of like, I have him right now in B tier, but he could also just as easily be A tier. I go back to this idea. It's not like he's bad or he's lacking. It's just there's other characters that are more interesting. But I think if you play Ryu, like, I think he's incredibly solid. I think he can get the job done with stuff. I think he's got really good tools. I just don't, like I said, I think there's other characters who people would want to play more. And I don't feel like I definitely run into him still because he is Ryu. He's the poster boy. I mean, I know in Street Fighter 6, Luke is the new one, but Ryu is the classic, right? Tried and true. So you do run into him, but I just think there's other characters that people want to play right now. And again, I don't think that makes him bad. I think I could just as easily have him in A tier. I just feel like he's just not getting a lot of attention right now because it's like, yeah, we've played a lot of him already. We've seen a lot of him already. There's more other characters that we want to play right now. We're going to go to those instead. So that, again, I feel like he's definitely solid. I think he's definitely good. I just think that he's just not as active because there's other characters to play.
Yeah, I have him A tier. I have him very kind of like, but middle of the pack. I don't think he loses hard, obviously, to anybody. I think the player can get the win, but it's on the player. But it's why not Luke? If you're gonna play Ryu, why not play Luke? Because he's gonna do pretty much what Ryu does, but better. There's also an element of why not Ken? Because Ken's doing a lot of the same stuff, but Ken can pounce a little more effectively, and that seems like a really nice tool to have in this game. Ryu does, he's like straight B's across the board, right? Like he can do the damage, he can decently zone you, but like other characters just do some stuff better, and to have a few more, like a little more spice, adds up to some more in the end of things. So you can be a super solid, just standard Ryu player. You're gonna enjoy this game if you do it that way. But if you wanna, you can play it with other characters and have better advantages. That's kind of how I see it. But John, how do you feel?
Yeah, I've got him in B, 12th overall, so the lower end of the thing, and then master rank. And Ryu's a really big indicator here with stats. Because he's the most popular character in the game, or typically is if he's halfway decent. I think he's fairly below average in this, but master rank players are 65, which puts Ryu at 11th overall. And then people playing him, shockingly enough, Ending Walker, Funko, Otani, and then of course MDZ Jemmy. Who's a lifelong Ryu player, it seems like. But he's, to me, the definition of a mid-tier character. In the right hands, he looks outstanding, especially if you're not familiar with his high-level setups and abilities. You run across like a very high-end Ryu and you go, oh wow, this character, maybe I underrated him. And then you run across all the people who are mediocre with him and you go, oh, nope, I properly rated him. It's the player, it's not the character. And so I think there's a good amount of untapped potential with this guy, much to quote his ending here in Street Fighter 2. And I think that history is going to repeat itself a bit with Ryu, where he spends quite a bit of time kind of in the lower middle of the tier list, but then you periodically see people rise up with him and win tournaments or place in top 8 with this guy. I think he has very good potential because Ryu's moveset is generally never super bad. Shout out to Street Fighter 5, the exception there. I think he's got more potential than we're seeing right now, but I don't think that most players are going to be able to unlock that. I think it has to be a very high-end, very super strong player to unlock what Ryu can do at the best levels of competition.
Yeah, I think they did exactly what they want to do with Ryu and put him solidly in the middle. So good on them. Zangief, last two characters here. Zangief is our second to last. John, where'd you put Zangief and why?
C tier, 16th overall, so very close to dead last. Thank goodness this guy isn't higher because he's got one of the most oppressive and damaging movesets in the game. He can end you faster than most other characters, but he has to be in a good position to do so, and that means tons of patience and thoughtful play, which Zangief players, especially in Street Fighter 5, were not known for at all. Pretty much just hold forward and just hope for the best. But now we have people like Snake Eyes, Itazan, Itabashi Zangief playing him, Veggie. This guy is going to take a while for people to wrap their heads around, especially if they played Street Fighter 5. This is much more like a Street Fighter 4 version of the character, where if you are very methodical and very patient, you can be extremely good with this character. But it's going to be character specialist. It's going to be just a handful of people who unlock his potential, and that is what Zangief should be. He should be deadly, absolutely deadly in the hands of a master rank player, but for random scrubs who just want to hold forward and spin the joystick, shouts to Nemo, he should not be that good, and I think that's what he is.
Yeah, I have a similar. I put him in C tier. I'm wary of how Itazan and Snake Eyes and the like will flesh the character out, and if they'll figure out some viable strategies with him. But I've played a very few Zangiefs, and the ones that I have played, especially as JP, I felt extremely comfortable against. A lot of his forward advancing stuff is very easily reactable. He doesn't get his Oki as much off of his command grabs, and so I know he can melt your life bar if he gets in, but it's hard to do. And so, like you say, it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a very smart play. And I'm interested to see the players that will apply that to the character. He might go up a little bit, but he seems like he's a tough character to win with, all things considered. How do you feel, Steven?
I actually have him in B tier, and for all of the reasons that you guys said, basically. The one big change that he has is that he doesn't get the Oki from SPDs, which is normally what he thrives with. But I think that the level at which he can punish you, and when he does get those openings, especially if like you whiff a DP or something in front of him, the damage he does is outrageous. And it's like, I think that kind of helps even that out a little bit more, where it's like, yeah, he's not going to be constantly on you, but when he does touch you, it's going to hurt a lot. And that's where I think the big difference is there. He's also got some interesting stuff with like his jumping drop kick is like a wall bounce if it gets his punish counter, which we've seen. Like, I think there was a clip going around where he jumped a fireball and hit like a Chun-Li with it or something and just cracks her and gets so much damage. And it's like he has some interesting tools like that. And then of course he's got drive rush too, which he can get out of jabs and stuff, you know, in combos or just to close the distance. I do think he's going to be a specialist character like he should be, but I do fear what people like that will do with him, because he just dishes out so much damage for your mistakes, and that's where it's like, that's where I start getting scared of him.
How
Yeah,
good can you be at hitting those half-court shots?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've seen it again, time and time again. Go back to Snake Eyes' history in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, and then Street Fighter 4. And he generally didn't play Zangief in 5 because he's such a different character in that game. And this, to me, feels like what Zangief should be. So I actually really give Capcom a lot of props here, because this is a traditional grappler character, and grapplers shouldn't get their big damage move and then just keep you in Oki all day long, where you have to guess to get out properly. They should have to reset their neutral at least a little bit, drive rush in, green hand in, get a little bit of space after their big damage, and that is what, that's what Zangief is. So I'm actually really happy with the character, but as much as I have him as a low tier character, I would not be surprised to see the specialists go in and win tournaments and do very well, because this character is geared to do that, if you ask me.
That's how I feel about the last character on our list here, Dhalsim. I have him in the bottom tier, in C tier, and I think he's going to be there for a little while, but like is almost always the case here, you take 6 months, you give him a year, you give him 2 years, and the Dhalsim players finally come out with like the ridiculousness of what the character can be and is. But right now, he feels like a more defensive character than he was in Street Fighter 5, thank goodness. Because the man, he was so oppressive in 5 in certain times with that dive kick and whatnot.
Yes.
Everyone's still figuring him out. So it's really hard to say, and he could fluctuate very easily. With what I've seen and what I've played against so far, I feel like even a zoning character like JP, Dhalsim's got teleports to suddenly zip across the screen and such. It's an interesting game. He's not free, but he also he has a hard time. The Dhalsim players need some time, and I know Mr. Crimson is like far and away. Last I checked, it was a little while ago, #1 character online and such, and like fair enough. But I don't think you're going to see a ton of that kind of stuff, at least not early on. So I have him low tier now, but like let's check back in 6 months when Dhalsim has had some time to gestate, and we'll see where he is there. John, what did you put Dhalsim?
I've got him at B tier, 10th overall, so basically right in the middle, but he's also the character I am most unsure of out of everyone on the roster, because some of the people who play him are like some of the best players we have in the fighting game community. Just to list off a few people, you mentioned Mr. Crimson, of course, phenomenal player, but Fudo is playing him right now, Filipino champ, Akita, Waichi Mochi,
I played Akita.
Yeah, Tachikawa. Like, there's a bunch of people playing this character who are longtime Dhalsim players or have switched over from other characters, and I'm going, what am I not seeing here? Because his tool set is off the charts. This is by far the most complete tool set for Dhalsim, and I'm going, oh, okay, oh my gosh, like, why is this guy just not dominating everything? And again, his technicality, he does have holes in his game plan. He can always, hit his limbs and stuff if he whiffs moves. His dive kicks seem to be worse than they were in Street Fighter 5. There's a number of other things here that he does not have going for him, but again, as Velociraptor was saying, once all the pieces come together, I'm really wondering if this is going to be a character who shoots up into like the top 5 or something like that, because that is what Dhalsim typically is. Either Dhalsim's very low tier or very high tier, probably maybe Zangief, but Dhalsim as well, maybe the most two polarizing characters in the history of Street Fighter.
And Steven.
Yeah, I have Dhalsim in C rank right now, and I have the exact same thought. I just think he's he needs some time to cook a little bit. He needs to simmer. Once the Dhalsim players like get used to what he's supposed to be doing in this game and start kind of solving those mysteries, I think he's going to be a real threat. He has a very interesting moveset. He's as slippery as ever. He's got some crazy fireball stuff. He's got drive rush cancel stuff from full screen. Like, he can do some stuff. I just think that people need time to get there. So I don't necessarily think he's a bad character. I just think he's rough to play right now because it's the growing pains, right? But once those specialists start getting there, like, you're already seeing players like Filipino champ with 40k points and stuff like that online and playing Dhalsim, and it's like, okay, like, there is stuff there. They just need to figure it out. But I would not be surprised to see it be a very similar situation to Street Fighter 5, where he just wasn't very good for a while, and then you start seeing the needle move in the other direction, and then all of a sudden he's a top 5 character, and you go, when did that happen, right? But I think he has the potential to do it.
No one would be surprised.
Nobody would be surprised, exactly. But that's exactly what I see him as right now.
Yeah, the amount of games that Dhalsim's been top tier in versus mid or low tier, he's usually a top tier character. This is usually one of the best Street Fighter characters because of his reach and stuff, but he's a long game character. He rarely starts off near the top, but he often ends up there.
Yes.
Well, that's all 18 of them. I have to pee. Did you guys have any other final thoughts when it comes to the current tier list and the cast of Street Fighter 6?
Capcom, do something with Lily, please.
I was gonna say I'm probably gonna start working on a secondary pretty soon.
Yep.
So we'll, hey, I'll say hi to DJ. So.
All right, and guys that have watched, thank you for watching all the way to the end. That's awesome. Like, comment, subscribe, but specifically though, comment and let us know what you're feeling. If you want to give your list in the comments, we'd check them out. And right now, it's a lot of what are other people thinking, what are other people's experiences. Again, we've had this for what 9-10 days, so very, very green still. But it's fun to explore this. It's fun to have a communal conversation, and we can do that more effectively than ever now with the way social media is and such. And so I've been having a really good time exploring this game. We will continue to do so. Just wait till the next week's tier list. No, we'll probably hold off on this for a little bit longer. But I'm very excited to continue to explore Street Fighter 6. I hope you guys are feeling the same way, and we really appreciate you checking this out. Let us know how you feel about it in the comments, and we will see you next time.